What's up, everybody? Welcome to LTMB Live. Let the madness begin. As usual, I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
Appreciate everybody joining us for this program on Tuesday, May the 29th. Looks like we already have some of our audience in here. What's up, everybody?
Yes, in the waiting room.
That's right. Glad that you are here.
Hope everybody's doing good as well.
That's right.
Got a bunch of stuff going on.
That's right. We got a show. We got a lot of things to talk about. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so and click that bell and make sure that you receive all of our brand new content as well. What's going on, people on Facebook?
Oh, I was about to say, because when I looked
Yeah,
over
it's
the
over
first
there
time, it
climbing
was
a little
only
bit.
like one,
Yeah.
but now
It's climbing a little bit.
Well, I like to use the word climbing.
Yeah.
I guess considering how the reach we had before.
Yeah, I know, right?
That is climbing.
Yeah.
We actually used to get more people watching the After Dark show, which we don't do anymore.
Yeah, because
we used to do a little After Dark show.
just not useful.
I'm surprised nobody called us out for it in the chat.
Yeah, nobody's actually said anything about it.
Said anything.
But it's probably because we go longer on the live show now.
So we used to do a for those of y'all who are new to LTMB, or we used to do a little After Dark, and that's what we used to call it. We used to go to Facebook after the live show and just kind of be more relaxed and just more loose.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't do that no more.
Nah,
because it just didn't feel worth it. And we also could fill the show up a bit more with more topics, because we had a lot more topics to cover. So we figured we'd take the live show a little bit longer.
No doubt.
It just made more sense. You know what I'm saying? Because we were always having to drop stories off. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. Yeah, just to like we would have to cut them off, and then maybe
man.
talk about them on the After Dark show, and it was just too much of a hassle, really. I think I like this format better. But like I said, appreciate everybody that's here with us. So let's get started a little bit with some updates. Today was the racial implicit bias training for Starbucks. Starbucks closed about 8,000 different stores across the country, and about 175,000 different employees undertook that training, that implicit bias training today.
Why not to call the cops on black people for doing nothing training?
Exactly. This started when two black men in Philadelphia were arrested for being black in Starbucks. So as part of agreement, or no, well, that actually wasn't part of the agreement with the two gentlemen, but the CEO felt it best for all of his employees to undergo this training. I
can already hear I don't know, like the pessimism in your side.
Yeah. My opinion on it is, first of all, sure, it's a good idea. Sure, having some training on prejudices and biases and all of these different things, stereotypes, is very good. It's not something that should just be relegated in the workplace. I mean, this is surfaced everywhere. You know?
It's not like whatever type of biases that Starbucks employees have, like, internalized in that particular work environment, in that particular space itself. You know what I'm saying? Like they're picking this stuff up from the outside. Right.
It's not special to workplace.
They're tracking it into their job. You know what I'm saying?
So I agree that it's a good idea, but I don't think, especially not one afternoon, and more trainings are due to be scheduled. I don't think there's a list of the dates or anything like that. We don't know if they're gonna actually close the stores again, or what it's actually gonna look like, how it's gonna what the format is gonna be. But this one training isn't gonna do anything, because as we know, as everybody should know, these attitudes, these mind frames take a very long time to, I guess,
set in.
Yeah, it's created over a lifespan.
It's almost like the same conversation we have about police officers and law enforcement reform.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are, you know, most I guess people who become police officers, what, 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, they're in their mid-20s or late 20s.
Right.
When they've been internalizing the same stuff everyone else has for 20, 22, 23 years. It's not going to just go away because they put on a uniform and because they went to police academy.
And a lot of these mind frames, they're just going to stay no matter what, because you know how people are, especially when they are exposed to like new information, just a new way of thinking about something, a different vantage point. They dig their heels in. That's just human behavior. So again, I agree that it's a good training, and maybe it might open some minds to, you know, some people that have an open mind, open heart. You know, maybe it might change some different I guess perspectives. But I think what's better is actually punishment. That's what I think is better.
Oh,
like
so you mean as like kind of to buttress the training a bit?
Yes.
Like hey, if you know are caught doing X, Y, or Z, there's gonna be some punishment. But maybe that's a part of it.
It should be.
We're not on the inside. Like I mean, you pretty much are piggybacking what Chris Suits is saying on Facebook, and he says I think it's still good, which we both agree with. We do think it's still good,
right?
But there's a big but. There's a big but in there because I do think it's going to take more than a day.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For something like this to set in, for any type of training like this to set in, especially when you're working against like years of internalized bias, it's going to take more than one day of training. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a continued thing. Like I hope this is just like very I don't know, preliminary.
Yeah,
I hope this is like a preliminary training, and maybe further training down the line, maybe in smaller segments, like as updates.
Well,
because most companies do that for, I guess, their current policy that they already have. They offer training to their employees when they first come in, and then along the way they continue to receive training at their job. So I hope that.
Well, like I said, it's more trainings. More trainings are going to be scheduled. The reason why I bring up like the punishment angle is, like I said, you're not gonna root it out, especially all in one afternoon, even in multiple afternoons. You're not gonna root it out. But what you can do is prevent the behavior from happening. So even if you have some people that have these different types of you know, thoughts about different people of color or whatever, different backgrounds or what have you, they won't exhibit that behavior at work because their job is going to be in jeopardy. That's what I think needs to happen. You know, all across the country, we see different, you know, we see these examples everywhere. If employees are doing these kind of things at work, then you need to punish that behavior. Like I said, that's the only way you're actually gonna, you know, make a dent in these happenings.
I mean, that's not.
You're not gonna change mind frames.
That's really commonplace, though. That's really commonplace in work environments, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about like discipline.
Yeah.
You set up deterrence so employees won't like commit the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Or commit the same violations. I mean,
I think the way it was being like presented by Starbucks is like they're really going to do something that is going to make a dent in this type of attitude, like these different perspectives. Like, you're not going to do that. Like, America is this. This is America.
You're saying they're exaggerating what kind of influence they have?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Because and then CNN Money. It says workers at each location will break into small groups to learn together. Starbucks chairman Howard Schultz Johnson and musician and activist Common will serve as a virtual guide. Employees will talk about their own experiences, watch a film about bias.
Of course, Common. Of course,
Common.
I mean, I got nothing against Common. He's like actually one of my top 15 all time rappers, I would say. But he is like the very the moderate choice, the common choice.
The common choice, yeah.
But he cool. I mean, I like Common. He's kind of like it seems like they can use him because he can kind of convey a certain message in a way that other musicians can't.
That
and
might be true.
his whole I guess music style and what he focuses on kind of centers around this very issue. So
he's perceived as intellectual. So I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with the choice. And then them talking about their own experiences as well. again, it's all good. You know, you want people conversing and sharing their experiences and how this has affected them in life, and you know, like I said, wake up some minds. You know, just I guess cause people to think about things in different ways. But if we're being real, you need a deterrent to these kind of behaviors in the workplace. That's it. You need a deterrent to these kind of behaviors all across America, not just in the workplace. You need it everywhere.
So yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like obviously, in the real world, outside of the world of people's workplace, there's deterrents to prevent people from treating people a certain way, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Discrimination. So, or like a hate crime,
right?
So if there was no punishment for that, there would be no point.
Exactly. All right, so update to North Korea as well. So the saga continues, you know, after last week and President Donald Trump canceling the summit. Seems like the summit still may happen after he wrote that letter to Kim Jong-un. You know, there was words out of North Korea saying that they were still open to meeting with the United States on that date, you know, or anytime, really. They said at any time. The United States said similar things.
Man, go ahead.
And then actually it was after that, this weekend, I believe it was in the demilitarized zone. The president of South Korea, Moon Jae-in, and Kim, they had actually had a meeting. This was only the second time I believe they had ever met. So outside of that meeting, I believe Moon Jae-in said that he's confident that North Korea is still committed to denuclearization, even though denuclearization has different meanings to different people.
I think the term denuclearization, as it pertains to what Kim Jong-un wants and what that encompasses, is probably a lot different from what the United States sees happening over there. He tends to be very against the United States presence over in South Korea. And so again, when Kim Jong-un talks about denuclearization, he's not just talking about, hey, I'm giving up my weapons. He's like, he wants everyone to give up their weapons. He wants the United States to be off the peninsula. That's what he ultimately wants. But do you think it's kind of timely that Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un came together in a secret meeting, like literally the day after the White House and Donald Trump sent that letter?
It's not a coincidence. Moon Jae-in is the one that spearheaded all these talks, right? He's the one that spearheaded this whole effort, brought North Korea to the table, brought this whole peace talk. You know, they made it relevant.
So you're saying, wait. So you're saying that Trump and the White House had nothing to do with this surprise meeting?
No. Well, indirectly. Very indirectly.
Obviously, because it was a surprise. Because you know good and well if the White House knew about this meeting, then that letter would not have been sent. No. Because this kind of looks kind of bad for us, doesn't it? Because like now it seems like the talks are moving forward without us.
But see, okay, so after Trump sent that letter and after being in communication with North Korea after that letter, Trump said to the media he said something like everybody plays games in response to like the letter being like part of the game. You know, it's a give and take. You know, we're in this thing, and you know, we're all trying to get to this point, and there's going to be games played. But it seems like the only one that's playing games is Donald Trump, because North Korea has been they haven't changed their stance. So it seems like Trump, the language coming out of the United States has been irresponsible, reckless, hostile.
What about Pence?
Yes, same thing. But then the letter that Donald Trump wrote to Kim Jong-un, it was a totally different tone. So of course, after that letter, because the comments coming out of North Korea recently was, like you said, in response to Mike Pence and his irresponsible comments. So North Korea took a very strong stance to it. But the letter that Trump wrote was very cordial. You know, he referred to Un as your excellency.
Your excellency.
Yeah.
But it's like he made it sound like the breakdown of the talks was kind of unilaterally Kim Jong-un's fault. Like, we didn't do anything. Like, hey, you've been talking reckless during this whole time, so we feel the need to cancel the summit, even though it was kind of us initiating the reckless talk and Kim Jong-un merely just responding.
It's a game, remember?
This is a game?
It's ridiculous that it's not a game. Like I said, it doesn't appear that South Korea is playing games. It doesn't appear that North Korea is playing games. Like, if we've said all along, like, first of all, the idea that North Korea would just give up their nuclear weapons and that's it is ridiculous. Like, we said that from the beginning. But we also said that, look, if Trump is actually trying to initiate peace talks and actually do the right thing and like enact peace on that peninsula, then the way he's going about doing that is very reckless. It's hostile. It's just irresponsible. So if you actually want to give him credit, like, he'd have to do something that is worth the credit, and he hasn't been doing that. So the administration hasn't been doing that.
So now, what does it look like now? Doesn't it look like, you know, Trump and the White House is on the sideline? It seemed like that was the plan from the beginning, because why else would Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un kind of plan their meeting behind closed doors without letting the White House know? It just seems like they wanted to sideline the U.S., and now it looks like
because the U.S. is playing games.
But North Korea has strengthened their position and weakened the United States' position, I guess before they come to the table on maybe a future summit, because the one that was scheduled in June was currently called off.
Yeah, but they're still talking about
another summit. So when that summit comes up,
well, see, it still might happen on the 12th too. That's what they're talking about. So we don't know how this thing is going to go. But recently, it was announced. I believe, Trump on Twitter. This was a comment he put out there. This was just earlier this morning on Tuesday. He said we have put a great team together for our talks with North Korea. Meetings are currently taking place concerning summit and more. Kim Young Chol, the vice chairman of North Korea, headed now to New York. Solid response to my letter. Thank you. Now, again, the only reason that it was a solid response to his letter, if you can categorize it as that, is because he took a very, very cordial, I guess, approach to that letter. Like, if you're going to threaten North Korea, then expect that the response isn't going to be nice. It's not going to be like, oh, okay.
I bet you, I guarantee you, Moon is regretting, like, giving Trump any credit. You know what I'm saying? I guarantee you Moon is, like, regretting that.
Yeah, not publicly, but privately, he probably is.
Especially because essentially Trump and the White House blew up the talks. And that letter written by Trump and the White House came without Moon's knowledge, I guarantee you.
Yeah, because we reported that he was surprised.
He was surprised. So Moon was the one who kind of provided kind of logistical support to bring North Korea and the United States to the table. Right. And then Trump just kind of like squashes that. I guarantee you he's regretting giving Trump any credit. He was smart. He knew that the United States was necessary and all this. He knew he needed the United States in these discussions. So what did he do? He just kissed up to Trump. And that's kind of that was a part of his game, but it was a more strategic and I guess intentfully honest game. It wasn't really a game for him. That was more like a strategy to bring parties together. Seems like Trump's game is just to kind of create chaos.
That's what it is.
But I mean, I don't know, man. I think that look, right now North Korea is winning the PR war.
Yeah, like I said, man, we'll just see how it goes. It doesn't look like Trump is through playing games. Yeah, so we'll just see how it goes.
In South Korea, it seems as if they think that the United States is an agent of chaos, and then all this. So whatever.
All right, so in an update to Sterling Brown's situation, Sterling Brown's an NBA player for the Milwaukee Bucks who was brutally and violently arrested back in January, but the video was released just last week. Milwaukee Police Chief Alfonso Morales, he, in a statement, he provided details about punishments for the officers who were involved. So he said 3 officers received unpaid suspensions ranging from 2 days to 15 days. I believe one got 2 days, another got 10 days, and another one got 15 days unpaid suspension. Then there were 5 more officers. The 3 officers that got unpaid suspensions plus 5 more officers, for a total of 8, will receive policy review instruction and remedial training in professional communications. He also said that the officers' names will be given to those who submit public records requests. So he did not offer the names, even though this police chief, Alfonso Morales, seems to champion transparency.
I was about to say that, because that's kind of what he tried to promote during that little campaign commercial that they put out the day before the Sterling Brown footage, or the day before they released it. They put out that, little promotional campaign commercial video.
We're good for the community.
We're good for the community. But anyway, like you said, it doesn't seem like Morales is really, truly interested in transparency.
No.
Because if he was, he would not, I guess, wait for people to file public records requests.
That's
he
right.
would just come out and say, hey, these are the officers that were involved. Because technically, if you are pulled over, as a citizen who was being pulled over by a civil servant, you look at their name and say, hey, what's your name? And usually they'll have sometimes they'll have the initial and their last name, so you actually don't know their name.
Right.
So sometimes you have to ask. And also you are permitted to ask who their supervisor is as well. And on the spot, an officer is supposed to give you the name of the supervisor. So if somebody who was pulled over can request that information on the spot and know it for themselves right then and there, why can't Morales just say, hey, these are the particular officers that were involved in this? Especially after it became so public and so widely talked about. I don't get why he can't just say, hey, these are the names of the officers.
Because this dude is not interested in transparency or accountability. Because, first of all, again, the incident happened in January. About 4 months goes by, and then you release the video. Okay, it was very clear to you just after watching it one time that something inappropriate happened and that these officers should be held accountable for their actions. But no, it took you 4 months of watching this video and I guess trying to figure out like how you're gonna get, what are you gonna do? Like, he wasn't even in charge when this incident happened, so it's not like this is gonna blow back on him and his leadership. No, what happened after it occurred and after you reviewed the video, that is all about your leadership. You waited 4 months, and then when the video came out, you refused to take questions about it, and then you put out some statement saying that no, you're not gonna release the officers' names unless somebody actually files a request for that information.
When that
man.
Heavily publicized press conference aired, you thought he was going to take questions about the specifics. Yeah, we all thought he was going to take questions about the specifics of what happened and what went on involving that incident.
Like it's customarily done.
Like it's customarily done.
Right.
Yeah, in situations that are actually more egregious than this.
Yes.
As much as we, talk about, police officers, law enforcement, police brutality, the criminal justice system and all that, as much as we talk about that, for the most part, even when very egregious violations happen, like somebody is actually shot and or killed or whatever, somebody is brutalized extremely, usually the statements made by the department are very extensive. Regardless of whether we agree with them or not, they usually come out in the press conference and they take questions about the incident.
Yeah.
So for Morales to, how long did you say he was up there?
Man, this dude stayed up there in front of the podium for maybe 2 minutes. And ducked out. That was it. He didn't want to. That was it.
The reporters were confused because prior to Morales coming out, because the live broadcast began at 5 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Central, and he didn't come out to about 6, right?
Well, no, he came out at the right time. Yeah, 5 o'clock Central.
5 o'clock Central. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like you can hear the reporters talking about the impending press conference and him coming up there. You can hear them talking about it because they had expectations. They were given this expectation that, we're going to view the footage and we're going to ask Morales questions about it. Right. And so, I mean, again, you can hear them talking in the background because they didn't. The feed was live. Yes. So Morales came up there. He delivered his little speech or whatever, and then scurried off.
Scram.
He scurried off. Yo, you can hear the reporters like,
no, what?
What's going on? Like,
and then one of them was very clear, asking a question like, oh no, I thought we were going to see the video. How can we ask you questions when we haven't seen the video? And he stopped to hear that question, and do you know what he did after that? Walked away. Like he could have at least responded to that. He didn't even respond to that. He just looked at the reporter and walked away, man. This dude is about absolutely nothing, man. Absolutely nothing. I'm not encouraged by his leadership. I'm
not surprised that a situation like this occurred in a department he presided over.
Well, again, he wasn't even the leadership at the time. But I don't have any faith that incidents like this will not occur again under his leadership. Whoever was the police chief before, if this kind of behavior happened under them, it just doesn't seem like there's going to be much different under Morales.
Yeah, and I think it's a slap in the face that they put out that campaign commercial ad the day before they released the footage to try to get ahead of the criticism. And I don't even think it was to actually get ahead of the criticism. It was more like to try to possibly ensure they didn't inflict as much damage from the criticism or from the footage being released. Right. Didn't he also ask the community for their support before the footage was released?
It was another official within the police department that was speaking to a church congregation. It was like, these are going to be some trying times in the next coming weeks.
Not trying times for Sterling Brown.
No, trying times for the police department. We're going to need all your assistance, all your support through these challenging times. Man, get out of here, man.
You mean your fuck-ups. Like he says challenging times when really you could just say they're fuck-ups.
Exactly. All right, so let's this tablet, man, what's going on with it? Okay, all right. Also, the Republic of Ireland, they voted in a historic referendum to overturn the abortion ban, which through the 8th Amendment of the Constitution of Ireland granted an unborn child the same right to life as the mother. So the vote was 66 to 33, so that's a overwhelming vote for overturning the ban. So it now paves the way for the Irish Parliament to legislate a much less restrictive abortion law, or abortion laws.
I'm glad this is getting attention over here.
Yeah.
Because I see a bunch of people commenting on it. Well, a bunch of my friends, at least. Some people that I follow have been kind of following this, and it does kind of set a precedent for the rest of the world, in my opinion. Especially, it's been so heavily publicized, and it's such a wedge issue over here politically. I don't think we can look at this movement over there and just kind of ignore it and not apply it to us
because it's not a country issue.
It's not exactly.
It's a human issue.
That's it. It's not like this is an issue that just affects one country or one state or one county.
And so because of that, a lot of attention now is being focused on Northern Ireland, who they have an abortion ban in that country as well. They right now, as it currently is in Northern Ireland, women that are, I guess, at risk for immediate, like their lives are at immediate risk, they can receive an abortion, but nobody else. It has to be an immediate risk to their lives. Women that have been raped and are impregnated by that attacker, they run the risk of being penalized with a heavier prison sentence than the attacker. if they undergo an abortion or if they even seek to undergo an abortion.
I guarantee you, if men were the ones that had to have the babies and the roles were reversed.
Of course not, man.
Man.
You know things would be much, much different.
It would be like, you know how like states that have kind of legalized marijuana have a dispensary on every corner.
Right.
Man, there'll be an abortion clinic on every corner. If it was if it was men that had to have the babies, man.
But all over the world, men are making these decisions.
You think it's I think the cover for people being against abortion, it's always some sort of, I guess, religious reason or some sort of moral reason. Right. But for the most part, it's only an extension of, I guess, men trying to control what women do with their bodies. To me, that's always been the lowest common denominator in all this.
Yeah, and like here too. I mean, I know the movement that is going on in Northern Ireland. They're pointing to the Netherlands. That they're pointing to the Netherlands abortion rates, which is I believe pretty low. But they say that they have access to an abortion, they have access to comprehensive sex education, they have access to, insurance and prophylactics, they just have access to all these things, and it doesn't make their abortion rates rise, So, and it's the same thing here when we talk about it. Nobody wants to see abortion rates rise. Everybody wants to see abortions in low numbers, very low numbers. But the way to get there is not restrictive access. That's not the way to get there.
Didn't we talk about this a couple of weeks ago, though? I guess because I don't even know what the story was about, but within the story, we highlighted the fact that teen pregnancy has gone down across all demographics in the United States.
And has been doing so constantly for the past, I believe, the past 8 years, it's gone down 55%. It's consistently, I think it's been going down 6 to 8% a year. And there are even programs that help this effort. And there was, there's this one program where there were a bunch of organizations, and they were being funded by the government. And the Trump administration, when they got into office, they cut that funding 2 years before it was set to expire. Even though it seems to be working. Seems to be abortion rates are lowering. Teen pregnancies are lowering.
The person that's in the prime position of the human, was it the health, the HHS?
Yeah,
the HHS. Right. She is pro-life.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense as to why.
Yeah, it does.
This administration would try to cut funds from organizations that do more than just abortions.
But anyway, so like I said, there's going to be a lot of attention on Northern Ireland, and but the British Prime Minister Theresa May, she's going to stay out of it. I think a spokesman for her said that this is a Northern Ireland issue, so it's going to be on the the Northern Ireland Assembly to legislate this, legislate less restrictive policy. So we'll see, we'll see how that goes. All right, so big news of the day, the very big news of the day, is Roseanne Barr.
Man, I didn't know we was gonna get to it this early, man.
Yeah, man.
I didn't know I was gonna have to deal with this early in the show. I hadn't I guess ramped myself up to talk about it because I really didn't want to, because she has become so much, I don't know, so toxic in this political environment.
Yeah, she has.
She hasn't offered anything of value. She's just kind of been someone who just says something for dramatic effect.
She's been a troll.
And not like a troll for a purpose.
No, she's just a troll and spreading just illogical and just unreasonable crap. And that's what she's been doing. So, anyway, Roseanne Barr, who is the star of ABC's Roseanne, the reboot from the 90s very popular TV show, she announced that she is leaving Twitter on Tuesday morning. All right, that she's done with it. So what inspired this decision was an earlier tweet that was very racist in nature. So this was in okay. So the tweet was talking about Valerie Jarrett. And so Valerie Jarrett was in the President Obama's administration. She was the senior advisor to President Obama. And Roseanne tweeted a response to a comment about her. And this was her exact tweet. She said, quote, Muslim Brotherhood Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of Apes had a baby equals VJ, Valerie Jarrett.
Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby. And that equals
Valerie Jarrett. Yes.
Don't you get the joke, Will?
Oh, I get it. Oh, I totally get it. Oh, I definitely understand it.
I ain't gonna. And this is the weird part about it. Roseanne can be funny. Like, yeah. I don't totally write somebody off because they said something that's ridiculous. Like recently, I have heard her make some very funny jokes, like the punchline, the lead up. So for this not to actually have a punchline, or the punchline was kind of weak, but whatever she thought was a punchline was weak. Like, for her to tweet that and say it was a joke, I highly doubt that, because Roseanne can be funny. And I know sometimes jokes, they strike out, but this one, it just seems very bland, and I don't see what direction she was trying to go with this joke. Now, has she issued some sort of like apology for it? She apologized?
Yes, Roseanne apologized for it on Twitter a few hours after the controversy, because actually after that initial comment about Valerie Jarrett, of course the outrage was launched. People on Twitter, people on Facebook, everybody's talking about it, people in the media talking about it. So Roseanne Barr did issue an apology, and she said, I apologize to Valerie Jarrett and to all Americans. I am truly sorry for making a bad joke about her politics and her looks. I should have known better. Forgive me, my joke was in bad taste. Now, this is what I said. Okay, so like you said, you don't quite think it was a joke. This was something that was just, she was just trying to make a statement. Yeah. And I agree with that. She was trying to make a statement, but I do believe it was a joke. I just believe it was a racist joke, because
those two things could exist at the same time.
Exactly. The whole thing. Okay, so I'm truly sorry for making a bad joke. It wasn't a bad joke. It was not a bad joke. It was just a racist joke. People that have that kind of mind frame, people that are racist in nature, they thought it was a very good joke. I'm pretty sure there are many people across this world that laughed out loud because they saw these words. It wasn't a bad joke, just a racist joke. It was about her politics and her, she's sorry because it was about her politics and her looks. Why was this about her politics? This wasn't about her politics. You connected the Muslim Brotherhood to an ape.
Was there
what does that have to do with her politics?
Was there like an explanation that complimented that apology? I can't remember. I saw some people defending her, saying that they were like, well, Muslims come in all races, so it wasn't racist because Muslims comes in all races. Okay, then do they understand that makes the joke not make sense? Because the premise of the joke surrounds what? Offspring, what has to do with looks. Yeah. So you're going to tell me she didn't have a certain type of person in mind when talking about that? You see what I'm saying? You have to have a certain type of person, I guess, that looks phenotypically like phenotypically a certain way, to have the joke make sense, because she said monkey and Muslim Brotherhood. Well, if indeed she was just talking about a religion, it still doesn't make sense. She was talking about the specific people who look a certain way.
She said that, and her look, she said that in her apology. The whole thing about, even if you throw out the Muslim Brotherhood, even if you throw that out, it's still racist. So yeah, that defense of it is ridiculous. Like, America, the United States of America has a very long history going back and comparing black people to monkeys or apes or chimpanzees or what have you, animals. And it's all been done to sell this idea that black people are less than.
And animals.
Yes. They are not like as important, or they are not like as smart as white people, white humans. It was done way back in the day, and it continues into today's day in 2018. That's why Roseanne made this comment. That's why she sold this joke to the people of the world.
And guess what?
Because it was funny to her, and it was funny to racists out there as well.
And it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense.
But she, again, my joke was in bad taste. No, it wasn't in bad taste. It wasn't in bad taste. It was a joke. It was just a racist joke. So this apology is a non-apology to me. We know exactly what, Roseanne's mind frame is. We know how people like this think. And stuff like this comes out of their mouth. So, so outrage followed. But it wasn't too long before ABC made a statement, and ABC canceled the show. So the Roseanne show is no longer going to be seen. They had already wrapped up the first season, I believe. I hadn't seen even one episode of it.
You know what? I think one thing that I wish I would have done, I wish I would have gone and looked at the ratings. Like, it got like very good ratings.
It was the highest rated show.
It was the highest rated show
on ABC.
I mean, how many episodes was? Because the first season's already over, right?
I believe so. I don't know how many.
I wonder if the ratings kind of stayed steady like that through the entire, through the entire season.
I don't know. Before ABC's announcement that they were canceling the show, one of the consultant producers of the show, who is Wanda Sykes, who's a legendary comedian, she announced that she was not in for the second season, that she was out, she wasn't returning, and it wasn't not long after that ABC did make the announcement.
See, there you go right there. Mm-hmm. There you go right there. Wanda Sykes is an integral part of the show, and she's a funny ass woman.
Exactly.
So with her not losing her, yeah, it will probably be big for the show.
Right. And so ABC's announcement, it said, Roseanne's Twitter statement is abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values, and we have decided to cancel her show. So, it's a good thing. Like I said, I hadn't even seen one episode of the show because of the promotion of the show and how we,
I saw
her. Yeah, I saw clips, but just of her appearances on different late night talk show, and just her words about Trump and just her defenses and her Twitter comments. I had no interest in watching the show. I just had no interest in it.
Because she actually, like, when she was on these late night shows talking about her show, she talked about her show in conjunction with her political views and how the show was going to be tailored based on that.
Yeah, it was a political show.
There was no
comedy,
and again, okay, that means she did it to herself.
Yeah,
she did it to herself because now these two things go hand in hand: the show, her life, and her political beliefs. And the thing about Wanda Sykes choosing to step away, Wanda Sykes was kind of Roseanne's biggest fan.
Yeah.
When like the show started, the show was rebooted. Like, she was all for Roseanne going for it. She understood what Roseanne's political views were. She understood this going in. But now it does say something when Wanda Sykes wants to back away, even though she was behind Roseanne the whole way. So that says something. Because
you can't defend these comments, man. They are one thing and they are racist. So the one thing I'll say about Roseanne too is that she's an asshole, man. Because what I'm sad about, well, not sad, but I guess I feel bad for the actors and actresses and all the producers that were on this program, that were in on the making of this show. Like, they have livelihoods too, right? This was a hit show. This was the highest rated show on ABC. Now, because of Roseanne's dumbass behind and her racist behind making these remarks on Twitter, the show is gone. They're out of work now. Now, I'm sure a lot of these talented people, they're gonna find jobs elsewhere, but there's nothing like being on a hit show.
Like John Goodman, man.
Yeah.
Like, John Goodman gonna be good. He's already been good. But
yes,
you're right. It makes
this will boost your resume.
It kind of you're kind of suggesting that she's selfish.
Yes, very selfish, man. Because this didn't just affect her. This affected everybody that had anything to do with the creation of that show.
So she was being narcissistic, kind of like the man she supports as president.
Following the line.
Following the line, man. Following the leader, bro.
So even though these comments are indefensible, there are going to be people that try to defend them. And one such person is former presidential candidate Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain.
I'm not surprised by that.
No, I'm not surprised at all. So this is what he said on Fox Business. He said earlier today, he said, quote, Roseanne apologized fervently. They canceled her anyway. I believe they were looking for a reason to cancel Roseanne. Even though the show was a rating success, I believe that forces within ABC didn't like the fact that her conservative defense of certain things was so popular and getting such ratings. He also added, quote, yes, it was racist. Yes, it was distasteful, but she vehemently apologized. You can't get any more ridiculous, Mr. Cain. You just can't. So you admit that these comments were racist. They were distasteful. So do you think there should not be any actions in response to these comments?
What does he think?
Behavior should have no repercussions?
What does he think the network should say or do? And it doesn't really matter, what Roseanne calls herself, whether she calls herself a liberal or conservative. You can't excuse those actions.
No.
And you can't make her into a victim and say, oh, it's just because she expresses conservative views, as if conservative views can't be labeled as racist. He's making that sound like conservative views are all good.
Yes, I know.
You see what I'm saying? That's kind of how he set it up.
But the excuse that he even came up with, like ABC was just trying to look for a way to get her out. Didn't ABC create this show with the knowledge that it was going to be politically
linked to her, politically leaned,
conservative,
and I guess leaned in a particular way that kind of accommodated Roseanne's political views?
Yeah. So they already, it wasn't like they were surprised of the content of the show. They already knew this, and it was a hit show. You think they were trying to find a way to get rid of it? No. Roseanne forced that upon them.
And we already know networks tend to, care more about ratings and getting views than catering to people's politics. We're talking about a network employee that said something racist. And dealing with these networks as far as their contract goes with their employees, their actors, their employees, there's certain clauses within their contracts that govern what their employees can do, what they say publicly. So essentially, this is an employer making a business decision about one of their employees.
Good riddance. Good riddance. I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even see one episode of the show, but good riddance. And as far as that whole she's leaving Twitter thing, the last time she left Twitter, 10 days ago.
Like I said,
10 days ago she announced that she was 10 days ago she announced that she was leaving every social media platform except Instagram. And here we are.
She's kind of a person who is really on the downslope of her career, and she is searching
now very much so,
and she's just searching for relevance in any way she can to gain that relevance. And it seems as if a lot of our entertainers have chosen a particular path to get there. Kanye West, you know what I'm saying? Why not
doing it for the shine, huh?
For the shine, man, trying to get exposure, man.
Well, she got the wrong kind of exposure. Again, this wasn't a mistake, so forget believing in that apology. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't in bad taste. This wasn't a comedian going too far. No. It's very clear that this was racist, and it's very clear that a racist mind crafted this tweet.
And yes, like, she can have a racist mind and a comedian's mind at the same time.
Exactly. Doesn't mean that she can't be funny on other things, but this one was funny in a racist way. It wasn't a bad joke. No, it wasn't funny to you. It was funny to racist. There's a crowd out here. There's a crowd in this world that appreciated that joke. It was a joke to some people.
They have low standards.
A lot of people do, man. Hey, a lot of people do, man. All right, so with that, that's going to be it for our Facebook segment, or our Facebook, end of the stream. We're going to do the rest of the show on YouTube, and we have the link in the description. All right, so if you just click that link, you'll be taken to the rest of the show. We have a lot more to talk about. Next subject, I believe we're going to talk about the immigration, the child immigrants. There's been a lot of controversy about that, a lot of talk about that. We have some more NFL kneeling, the whole policy. We have some more of that to talk about. A video game that's causing a lot of criticism. We have that to talk about.
We have a talk about Black Men for Bernie group.
Black Men for Bernie
got played.
Straight clowned. Yeah, we got to talk about that. So please, if you would, click that link. You'll be taken to YouTube, and we'll see you there, all right? All right. Somebody was complaining on Facebook.
Who was complaining on Facebook?
I don't know. Somebody complaining that we took a long time to get to the Roseanne story. Y'all ain't talk about nothing until you got to Roseanne. No, we did talk about stuff. We supposed
to open up with Roseanne?
Yeah, exactly.
We got to open up. LTMB, Let the Madness Begin, has to open up with Roseanne.
We can't update viewers on North Korea. We can't talk about what was the first thing we talked about? Yeah, we can't talk about the whole Starbucks thing. We can't talk about the Sterling Brown incident and update to that. Stories that we have covered. We can't update.
Yeah, what Morales,
come on,
said. So I mean, I mean, I understand people want to hear about a particular story more than others.
Yeah.
But we're not going to format the show based on what one person wants to hear. Come on now. You can't expect us to do that. You know what I'm saying? We cool with, catering to the audience in some cases, but damn, that's going a bit too far.
All right. So, so the next story is about these immigrant children. So, in the past few days, there's been a lot of talk about Trump's policy of separating children from their parents. And that was about what seemed to be a new policy initiative in which people that do cross the border, if they're crossing the border with their children, they will be separated from their families. So that's one thing to talk about. So that's one issue to talk about. And we talked about it briefly before, too. And, it's a very heartless gesture, I think it's bad policy. So that's one way to talk about that issue. But there's another issue that is being talked about that's actually, it's being conflated with that other issue. It's being
kind of mixed in the same bowl for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason they're just being joined together and outrage is sparking. And it's just one issue, and it's actually two different issues.
So kind of what came first, though? I think that is kind of the question. What came first? The issue with the Trump administration's policy about separating children from their parents at the border. Did that come first?
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
No. What came for? Okay, so all this stemmed from it was a Senate committee hearing last month, so it was in April, and Stephen Wagner, he's an official within the Department of Health and Human Services. So he testified that the federal agency had lost track of 1,475 children who had crossed the U.S.-Mexico border on their own. So that means that they did not cross the border.
They were unaccompanied.
Yes, they weren't with their parents at the time. So, like I said, 1,475 kids, they had lost track of these kids that had crossed the border on their own, right? So when they crossed the border on their own, of course, this agency had, I guess took control of them, and they placed them with families. Now, I believe it's a large percentage of the time that these kids are often placed with their own families that already are living here in the United States of America.
Yeah, I think it's the what you're talking about. It was the Office of Refugee Resettlement,
right?
And what they do is they try to find family members that are already here,
right?
I don't know, uncle, cousin, aunt, whatever. They try to find
a family member that's
to find the family members, and if they cannot, the kid actually stays at the center.
Right.
They don't go anywhere. Now, the kids that do actually find like a place to settle, whether it be with family members, those are the ones Wagner was talking about.
Right. In which there's a large total number of kids that are settled with these families, whether, like you said, whether it's their own families or another family. Of those kids that have been settled, there's 1,475 kids that they have lost track of. Now, because of that, for some reason, people jump to the
human
just the
trafficking
assumption. Yeah, they jump to the assumption that these kids were first lost. They were lost. Now, when you say you lost track of the kids, it doesn't exactly mean lost, because what it means is that like they try to call these families. Mm-hmm. They try to call them. It's not like they went and knocked on doors. It's not like they actually, like, there was like some sustained effort to actually find these
official
kids.
Law enforcement, logistics.
No, it was just they were trying to get in contact with them and had not been able to do so as of yet. These families hadn't called them back, hasn't answered the phones, whatever. So
what are some reasons behind why the families wouldn't call back, Will?
So one reason might be they don't think it's important. I mean, it could be. Another reason is that they are
they're afraid that maybe members of their family might get investigated, might get deported. Maybe they know some people who are undocumented. Maybe they don't want to have anything to do with the United States government.
Right.
So they don't answer the phone. They don't respond.
They don't want to be, I guess, tied to or connected to a system that can deport them. So, and that's pretty reasonable. That's pretty reasonable. So of those 1,475 kids, you would have to think that a lot of them are, trying to be like, okay, we don't really want to have like a link to the government. Let's sever that tie. So, but that's just speculating. We don't know. Like, there might be some that are like, we'll get back to them later. They're just kind of like, I don't know if they're stalling, they're just putting it off. We don't know, but it doesn't automatically suggest that they are actually lost. And what people have been doing is that because these kids are, I guess, unaccounted for as of yet, like, the government's lost track of them, people are saying that they may have been sold into human trafficking, or, that they are being trafficked, sex trafficked, or whatever the case.
And that's another thing. So from that line of thinking, they went from the kids are lost to human trafficking, but directly to human sex trafficking. But if you go to the White House, the government website, or the ICE website, and it kind of defines human trafficking in a very comprehensive way. And it actually sounds like, just based on the language I read on the ICE's website, seems like human sex trafficking specifically seems to be something that is like a secondary focus, where most of the human trafficking that is done is because of labor exploitation. That's kind of what it sounds like they focus on the most. But a lot of people just kind of jumped over this huge hurdle and went to just human sex trafficking. Yeah,
which again, at least as far as I know, there's no proof to say that these kids have been trafficked,
because
it's just nothing,
because you don't know where they are.
Yeah,
you don't even know where they are. You haven't even found them yet. So how can
exactly? But even though the government doesn't know where they are, it doesn't mean they're lost. That doesn't automatically mean they're lost either. I mean, like, they placed them with these families. It's not like they placed them with human traffickers. I mean, I don't think there's anything to suggest that either.
Well, no, there's nothing to suggest it, but I've heard people say things like, oh, well, they got put with families without verifying, or got put with sponsors without verifying these sponsors, which is not true.
I don't think that's true.
That's not true, because again, we stated at the beginning that the children are usually placed with families,
right? And
if they cannot find a family to place these children with, they keep them at the center.
Yeah, it could be a changed number. I mean, like, there's a lot of different reasons why they have, that they could not be, I guess, connecting with these families. There's a lot of reasons, but probably the most sensible one is that they feel like they're risking deportation if they're connected to the government. That's the one that makes more sense to me. But anyway, so like I said, there's a lot of controversy about it. A lot of people on social media talking about it, and like I said, they jump right to human trafficking. So the Trump supporters have been defending Trump by saying that he's actually doing the most on human trafficking. Which that doesn't hold water either. But it's crazy because, first of all, like, the whole issue got jumbled up and like confused.
I think some people,
and because of that,
chat. I think some people in the chat are jumbling up. Jean is jumbling up the issue too. She says they should not separate children from their mothers. In the discussion, we're not.
Yeah. That's a whole separate issue. Yeah, and we're with you. We're with you on that.
What are we talking about now?
We're talking right now about the 1,475 kids
unaccompanied.
Yeah, unaccompanied. They crossed the border on their own, not with their parents. They came to America, and through the ORR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, they were placed with families. They were placed with their own families or other families. And in a Senate committee hearing last month, it was Stephen Wagner, who's an official with the HHS. He said that they had lost track of 1,475 of those kids that have been placed with families. So this does not have anything to do with this new policy that's being, discussed about the Trump administration prosecuting those parents that cross the border with their children. So if you prosecute them, they're going to separate those parents from their children. That's what the Trump administration is talking about right now. That is not the same issue as these 1,475,
which we have an issue,
not misplaced, but lost track of kids.
Again, and that's what we will talk about later, and we do have an issue with that.
Right.
And I guess certain people in the media, certain journalists have brought attention to this policy of the Trump administration of taking children away from their parents. That is something that got brought up.
Right.
And so in response to, I guess, members of certain media outlets, certain networks highlighting this and their disagreement with this policy, there was a clapback from a lot of people who supported Trump. But the clapback went back to the other issue about the 1,475 missing children. So the clapback from the Trump administration, or from people who support Trump, and from networks that support Trump, people that I've been talking to who support Trump, the clapback to people bringing up the whole children being taken away from their parents, it was based on that 1,475 children going missing, which I don't understand why the criticism or the clapback centered upon that. That didn't make sense.
I don't know how this got jumbled up. Seriously, I don't. It's you're talking about immigrant children, but that's really the only
connection.
Yeah,
that's the only similarity.
Like I said, I don't understand why it got
and so
all mixed up.
In defense of kind of Trump, they went to this happened under Obama too.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're not talking about children being taken away from their parents, which is solely a new policy introduced by the Trump administration. That's what the conversation was about.
But then they also went to the just illogical defense of Trump too, and saying that he's actually doing way more than any other president
on human trafficking.
And there's absolutely no evidence to support that. Like there's people that are saying like, oh man, the arrest numbers are in the thousands. Like there's there's like this meme that's going around where it's listing the Trump is on there and his bar is so much higher.
It's like 6,355.
Yeah, the arrest. Human trafficking arrest
in 1 year.
In 1 year, I guess 2017, right?
2017.
But then Obama's is way down here, and but there's no evidence to sustain that. Like you look at numbers from ICE, they don't support that whatsoever. And then so in response to that, I think some people are saying, well, you got to look at like individual police department numbers, which like now we're getting really insane here. So look, when President Trump has a policy or he signs an executive order, usually it's going to be about the federal government, right? In most cases, that's morely about the federal government. If you're talking about the president saying that he's going after human trafficking, that's going to be on a federal level. How is he supposed to how are we going to give him credit for what local police departments are doing? Like if they're arresting pimps and human traffickers, like you're really saying that's at the behest of King Donald Trump or dictator Donald Trump? Like How much credit does this man deserve or need? Like, it's getting outrageous here. Local police departments are spearheading this effort. And then when you actually get into the numbers of, you know, like what they're providing, most of these people that are getting arrested are not human traffickers.
No.
You know what they are?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
They're people just paying for sex, man. They're Johns. They're people trying to buy sex. They're trying to buy prostitution. These aren't human traffickers. It's insane, man. It makes absolutely, like, so the rush to defend Donald Trump became just completely illogical. And really, you really didn't have anything to defend Trump about on this issue, because this wasn't an actual criticism of Trump, because the 1,475 kids don't, like, being lost track of by a government agency. I don't think that says anything about Trump.
Exactly. It didn't even say anything about Trump.
Yeah.
Actually didn't even say anything about Obama either.
So nobody needed defense.
Nobody needed to defend like anybody on this front. Because again, the initial criticism that people had was about children being stripped away from their parents at the border. That was the initial criticism.
Yes. And that's definitely relevant to talk about. Now, that is something that the Trump administration should be criticized about.
So once people criticized him on that, like, the response from Trump supporters was, well, he's doing things on human trafficking. This has nothing to do with it. And not only that, they defended him by saying, well, it was Obama's fault. Obama had the same stuff. He did the same things. It was Obama who lost the track of the kids. It was Obama's fault that this process existed. I was like, first of all, nobody was criticizing Trump on that, so there's no need to deflect. Like, you are hastily deflecting. Like, you're deflecting for no reason, because nobody said anything about. Well, for the most part, the original criticism was, like we said, it was about children being ripped away from their parents.
Right. Not about you not being able to contact kids that have been placed with families.
These two issues somehow got mixed up.
I don't know whose fault it was. I don't know if it was, Trump supporters or people that were critical of Trump. I don't know who spearheaded it. I don't know who lumped it all in together. I don't know. But like I said, there are two different issues. So you just have to, I guess, like I said, recognize that, and recognize that there's one, there is one real issue to talk about here, and that's, like I said, and that's the Trump policy of separating kids from their parents. Yeah,
and then people were kind of it was weird because people were mixing up the points in their defense. You would say, Trump's administration has a new policy about ripping children from their parents, but people had a problem with that because I guess people were being hyperbolic and saying, well, Trump is ripping babies from their mothers. A lot of people had a problem with that. Right. And since they had a problem with that, they wanted to highlight how Trump is doing good things on the front of human trafficking and how Obama did not do anything. And I'm like, I was lost. These mugs had me lost, man.
And just quick, I mean, on that front too, again, if you're looking at federal numbers, if you're looking at ICE numbers, in 2016, convictions were higher for human trafficking than they were in 2017. Arrests were higher in 2017. There were about like 300 higher than 2016.
Nothing significant.
No, but the convictions were higher in 2016. So that would be under Barack Obama. It's just illogical. It hurts, man. It kind of hurts, man. Anyway, all right, let's move on, man. I think we spent way too much time on that anyways.
I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think to kind of close that story out, was that an Obama policy to take children away at the border, or was that a Trump policy?
That's a Trump policy.
Okay,
man.
Thank you.
That's a Trump policy. All right. Let's do San Francisco. We'll do that.
Yeah.
All right. Recently, the San Francisco District Attorney's Office announced that they will not prosecute any officers in connections with the shooting deaths of Mario Woods and Louis Gongora Pat. So Woods was killed in 2015, while Gongora was killed in 2016. So both of these men had knives on them at the time of their shootings. And prosecutors claimed that there wasn't enough evidence to state that officers acted unreasonably in defense of themselves or of others. So there just wasn't enough evidence to proceed here. The district attorney, he said, quote, "To the Woods family and the Gongora family, there are not enough words that I can say that are going to bring their loved ones back. I'm very sorry they lost a son, they lost a brother, a friend, because I don't believe that was necessary." So that's very interesting to hear that last bit of that quote. I don't believe their deaths was necessary. So if you don't believe their deaths was necessary, and that's something that he has communicated before, like it shouldn't have happened. These two instances shouldn't have happened. That seems to indicate to me that there was some type of
negligence,
improper policing here.
Mm-hmm. I mean that's what common sense would lead you to believe. Right?
It didn't need to happen. I don't believe that was necessary.
Okay, if it wasn't necessary, if you're saying something wasn't necessary, you're saying that the actions of the police were unnecessary.
Yes.
And if you're saying the actions of the police were unnecessary, that means you're saying the police were at fault.
But you don't have enough evidence to say that they're at fault. But you have enough evidence to make that statement?
Yeah, you have enough evidence to say it was unnecessary. And all the evidence that we actually have is the footage.
Exactly.
And the circumstances. And if that's enough to say what the police did was unnecessary, then that should be enough to go forth with at least some sort of indictment.
Now see, so the two cases there's video from the two shootings, but in the case of Louis Gongora Pat, the video doesn't actually capture the shooting. It captures the police officers walking up to Louis Gongora Pat, sitting down on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And what they claim is that he had a knife, and they came to him and they shot him with rubber bullets, I believe. And they shot him a few times, 3 or 4 times. And then he got up and charged him. That's when the officer that wasn't shooting rubber bullets actually shot, live rounds at him and killed him. So you hear the shots on the video, but again, you can't see anything. But again, this district attorney still found enough evidence to come up with the statement that the shooting was unnecessary. Okay.
Maybe it was just a bad use of words, man. You see what I'm saying? But you got to be real careful if you're a district attorney.
Yeah. Well,
according, about what words you use.
Well, I would push back on that because we do have video from Mario Woods' execution. Yeah. And I'll call it an execution because of the video. So, and we remember this from back in 2016. I remember seeing this video footage, and I thought it was completely unreasonable that these officers shot and killed this man then. I still believe the same way now.
Not just, the use of force and the use of a weapon, the how much force, how much they used their weapons, how much rounds they kind of expended during this process.
I believe he had 20 rounds in him. So they shot more than 20 times, but I believe he actually had 20 bullets in him.
You'll hear it, and it sounds like a damn gunfight. Right. It sounds like some sort of Western. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so this is the video.
Oh my fucking God, drop! Oh my God, drop it! Drop it! Just drop it! Just drop it! Just drop it! Just drop it, please! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
What's it?
So, I mean, that's always hard to watch.
So what were they there for, Will? Like what?
So he had allegedly he had just stabbed somebody, somebody that was unknown to him. He walked up to him and stabbed him.
Apparently, he stabbed him like in the arm.
Yeah, on the arm.
After that, he just
it wasn't life threatening or anything like that.
He just walked away.
The guy didn't die or anything.
He just stabbed him in the arm and walked away. It was just
Yeah, so he stabbed and walked away. Police were alerted. They came to him, and so the first sounds that you heard were of rubber bullets being launched at him, and it wasn't putting him down. So the police officers claimed that they couldn't take a risk. They had to actually fire live rounds at him at that point because the rubber bullets weren't doing anything.
Taser.
Yeah, I know.
Taser.
At the moment that they started actually firing live rounds at him, and it wasn't just one cop that fired live rounds, it was multiple. But at the moment that they did, you saw it on the video, did he start to run? Did he did he make any sudden movements? Seemed like he was just walking across that wall, and he was walking real slow. He didn't make any threatening movements or anything like that. He was walking away from them.
Now,
so I don't know what caused them to at that moment, the threat level is way too high now, we have to put him down.
I understand the standard justification for opening fire on a suspect is if they pose immediate danger to the civilians surrounding the area, or immediate danger to the officers in the situation. In a lot of cases, police legitimately fear for their life. That's without question. There's a lot of cases where they do, and a lot of cases where they do have to open fire because a suspect is charging them or points a weapon at them, a deadly weapon like a gun. But here we have a situation where a police officer does something that you kind of like to highlight, right? Is get in the position and get in the way of the danger,
right? Because you saw that one officer that was in front of him, and there was Woods was going to keep walking towards him, right? Because he was walking towards along that wall. So what you're saying is that the police officers are setting up the scenario to where there's only one option, and that option is to shoot live rounds into this individual and put him down, kill him.
Is death by firing squad reasonable? Or is that acceptable for a person holding a knife, or an acceptable punishment for somebody who was allegedly guilty of a crime that maybe results in a year in jail?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
And obviously, someone coming into the situation, knowing what this person did, and then you kind of look how he's moving, look how he's dressed. I think I don't think it's out of bounds to speculate or make the easy consideration that this person might have a mental condition.
Yeah, man. I don't think that's unreasonable to speculate on that. But it's even if he didn't, man, even if he knew full well what he was doing when he walked up to this random stranger and stabbed him, does that person deserve to die? At the hands of law enforcement,
in a hail of bullets.
Exactly,
a hail of bullets, man. You would have thought you were listening to the sounds of a gun battle going back and forth between gangs or some old western.
But Woods had no firearm on him whatsoever.
He had a knife. He didn't have no machete or no big butcher knife. You could hardly see the knife in the footage.
Yeah, you can't even see it. I don't think I saw it. Did you see it? I couldn't see it. But he didn't even make a threatening motion. So, it's what more do you need to see from this video footage to actually charge the officers with murder or whatever you need to charge them with? What more do you need to see if you're the district attorney? In the case of Gongora, we don't have any clear video footage of that incident. So, if you're a district attorney that always sides with police officers, hey, this is definitely an opportunity for you to side with them and say, hey, there's not enough evidence. We can't proceed further. But in the case of Woods, there's nothing on that film that suggests that the actions taken by those officers were appropriate. It looks like a criminal action by multiple officers.
But they have uniforms on, Will, when they have to do their job. So, their mistakes and their negligence, reckless negligence, can be swept under the rug or ignored because they have uniforms on. They are allowed to make mistakes, kill people, hurt people, simply because they have a uniform on. The decisions they make essentially are weighed a lot differently because they have a uniform on.
The city's elected public defender, who is named Jeff Adachi, he said, quote, "To date, not a single officer in San Francisco has ever been criminally charged as the result of shooting a citizen. Yet citizens are charged with crimes every day, despite prosecutors being unable to prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. A hail of bullets is not an appropriate police response to people suffering mental health crises."
What's that old saying? Prosecutors can indict a ham sandwich.
Yep.
Meaning that they could create a case even when a case is not there, and we've actually talked about cases like that. We're talking about ridiculous cases.
Ridiculous cases. What's the last one we did? Evidence is not evidence.
What's the last one we did?
Man, I can't even remember. I just remember the whole helicopter
thing. Yeah, they found the police found some DNA under the fingernails of a victim, but they did not match their number one suspect. And when asked about how this DNA got there, law enforcement officials say, well, the DNA could have possibly been blown under the fingernails of somebody inside by some helicopter that was flying earlier that day or night. I was like,
wow. It said it could have been like officers on the scene.
Officers on the scene.
Yeah, their DNA somehow
under the fingernails
got into the fingernails of the victim by wind that was being blown by the helicopter. They actually presented this in court.
Or like the story we covered last week with the vegetation. The vegetation on the car door. So again, they are quick to produce any little thing to give justification to arrest somebody or, prosecute somebody, even when evidence is not there.
No, not even there. But when we have a video that clearly shows improper actions of police officers, this district attorney still won't proceed. You've got to think that he doesn't want to at this point. You've got to think there's something else behind his actions, and it's not justice. It's not actually trying to advocate for the citizens of San Francisco. No, he's trying to advocate for police departments, the police department of San Francisco. That's what he's trying to advocate for, man. Be interesting. It would be interesting to see his
track record.
Well, who's funding him?
Oh, kind of like how in San Diego. Yeah,
no, I think it's San Francisco too. Isn't it?
No,
I think the woman.
No, I think that's San Diego. That's the one. Gosh,
I forgot her name.
I think that's either San Diego. I think that's San Diego. Yeah, I could be wrong too, but it's not San Francisco. It might be San Diego. It's the one the one where her campaign was funded by police unions. Yeah. We did that story, but I think it's San Diego.
All right, we'll have to check that. But anyway, that's a sad result to that situation, though. You want to?
Yeah, I think. I do want to deal with, because it does have to do with Bernie Sanders and the election and politics more so than the Peter King thing. Yeah, let's do that one. Yeah, let's do that one, man.
We got some strong opinions about this one, man.
This is one of those things where I wish I could have sympathy.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could have sympathy just for your boy riding for Bernie.
Oh, yeah,
but
man.
This here? This here?
This is inexcusable to me.
Oh.
Inexcusable.
Unacceptable.
So, most people are probably familiar with Black Men for Bernie. And the founder who created Black Men for Bernie is Bruce Carter. So, Black Men for Bernie, they have this big old bus. And they would tour the country, Carter would tour the country. He would stop in different cities, a lot of times at Bernie Sanders events and Bernie Sanders rallies. And he'd be supporting Bernie Sanders very loudly, very vocally, right? And that was very much appreciated. When we went to the DNC convention, the convention, the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Black Men for Bernie was there, and he spoke. I remember at one event he spoke there, and like I say, I mean, it was a good time, and I know a lot of people that were interested in seeing Bernie Sanders become the Democratic nominee. They appreciated Black Men for Bernie's efforts.
And of course, they appreciated those efforts because they were out there dispelling this myth that somehow there wasn't a significant portion of the population that supported Bernie Sanders.
And
the Bernie Bros things.
I'm saying specifically black people support of Bernie Sanders as well, because we saw that all the time in the media, that Bernie Sanders was not doing very well with black people, and he just couldn't appeal to black people. When he came to the South, in the southern states, he got killed by Hillary Clinton, and it was just like, hey, you can't win black people. So again, it was pushing back at that narrative that black people just couldn't support Bernie Sanders. He wasn't appealing to them. So again, his efforts were very much appreciated. Mm-hmm. Now, after the convention and after Hillary Clinton won the nomination and Bernie Sanders bowed out and he vowed to support Hillary Clinton and do whatever was needed to see her elected, Bruce Carter had a choice, as did we all had a choice. Where are we going to go from here, right? Some people chose to continue supporting Bernie Sanders, and that was it. Bernie or bust, I'm just voting for Bernie, and that's it. Some people said, you know what, there's a Green Party candidate named Jill Stein in the race. I'm gonna throw her all my support. That's what we did.
Those options, even if they were kind of protesting against voting for Hillary by still voting against Bernie, that still makes ideological sense because your platform didn't change. Really.
Exactly.
And if you go to the Jill Stein route, a Green Party route, and if you were a Bernie Sanders supporters, it makes sense to go down that path,
right? Because
at least the platforms are not the same, because Jill Stein is further to the left,
right?
But at least there's
very similar
sort of similarities,
right? Now, there were also some people that chose to support Hillary Clinton. All right, a lot of people chose to support Hillary Clinton. A lot of former Bernie Sanders supporters chose to support Hillary Clinton. Okay, now Bruce Carter felt like that was a bridge too far. That's not something I can do, right?
I have no problem with that.
I have no problem with that as well, because that was a bridge too far for us as well. In 2016, just couldn't, no, there was no way. And like I said, we had a goal. We wanted to push Jill Stein and the Green Party to a certain percentage of the vote so that we could actually, see some success. Like, we can push forward the Green Party and like actually get to a point where the Green Party is really relevant in all the voters' minds in America. That was our goal. Didn't happen. But hey, that was the goal, right? Okay. But again, Bruce Carter opted not to go in any of those routes. The route that he took was supporting Donald Trump. That's what Black Men for Bernie did. That's what Bruce Carter did. So he wound up creating Trump for Urban Communities. And he actively supported Trump's campaign. Okay, so there's, I guess, some recent focus on this because of an interview that Bruce Carter did with Bloomberg News, I think it was just Bloomberg, actually. Yeah, he just did an interview with Bloomberg, and he shared a few things that are worthy of noting. So he revealed that he was recruited by a man named Dustin Stockton, who was working for Breitbart at the time. So it actually started at the Democratic National Convention, and that's where they met. So he said that he met with him for hours, I believe, around that time. They talked. He said it was like an aggressive kind of recruitment, but he said it was, still, I guess, kind of like a friendship, something like that. He said Stockton showed him the movie Clinton Cash.
But was that even necessary?
It wasn't necessary because we already knew, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
He supported Bernie Sanders.
Exactly. Everybody already knew that, right?
Everybody knew about that.
But again, this was all an effort so that Bruce Carter would join the team and actually advocate for Trump and actually be as vocal as he was for Bernie Sanders and do that same thing with Donald Trump. So again, after the Democratic National Convention, they spoke on the phone multiple times. They always talked. And what Bruce Carter reveals is that when Steve Bannon became Donald Trump's chief campaign executive, Stockton offered Carter the opportunity to engage with Bannon. At that point, that is what pushed it over the top.
That's the carrot.
Yeah, that's what pushed it over the top for Carter, and Carter at that point endorsed Donald Trump. Why the hell would an offer to engage with Steve Bannon mean anything for you? Why would that get you to support Donald Trump?
Actually, that's like not my main question.
Oh, it's not the main question. It's one question.
My main question is, like, what got Carter to think that Trump was going to somehow revitalize and renew and reinvigorate urban areas? Where was the evidence of that? That's the problem I have. So I think it's all BS. Like, so either he's naive or he's either irresponsible. Either one of those things. He's either naive or irresponsible. And there's a reason for why he could be one of those two things, and it's not good. You see what I'm saying?
No. It's not good.
Okay, so what do we have here? We have someone, just like many other people, but in this case, it was someone who organized a kind of a political rallying movement around Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
Black Men for Bernie.
Right.
So, again, just like many of you, just like us, just like a ton of other Americans supported Bernie Sanders, they were let down after the primaries. So there's probably a lot of resentment there. So I think the resentment is there for a lot of people. But in this case, for Bruce Carter, there's more of an investment because you have all these kind of this political energy put forth. You have this motorcade of this huge RV,
right.
All these vehicles. You have all this staff. You've kind of rode for Bernie, and now that ride is over. Where do you go? You don't want it to end, so now you're resentful. Now this vulture comes in during the convention, who is an obvious vulture, and exploits your resentment, and probably the thought of getting some more money, and the thought of your kind of contribution in this political environment not being over. All that's running through his head. So it's like, yeah, I'm mad at Hillary for cheating Bernie. So, and I still want to, continue this kind of political movement. So it looks good to support Trump. I think that the way he rationalized it is he fooled himself into thinking that he believed that Trump was going to do something for urban areas.
Yeah, because like you said, there was no evidence that Trump was going to be the best at actually revitalizing urban areas, urban communities.
Seems a bit disingenuous.
Yeah, because I remember long before this, and I think I had routed you to it on Black Men for Bernie's website. I mean, not on website, but on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
There was a post.
You did.
And he was talking about Trump. And he was talking about, hey, he's the best guy for the job. I mean, who else is going to do it? And he was being he was being very dismissive to, I guess, the thought of Jill Stein. And it was like, well, hold up. Like, how could you seriously be advocating for Donald Trump?
So at the time, we were like, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? This seems like a odd switch.
Yes.
This kind of seems like an odd pathway to go down. Even if someone feels resentful about Bernie Sanders using, which is a legitimate a resentment, but you can't logically see why someone would jump onto the Trump train, and now we see why. Now, does it even make sense if somebody working for Breitbart just came to you and offered you something and offered you money to do something? I think that's the point right there.
Right.
That's kind of
money, influence. He thought this train was gonna continue being. He was gonna ride a train. Okay, a train. He was riding the Bernie train, but that thing died. Right. So he had to pick another train. Hey, this Trump thing, this actually might be something.
He became a grifter.
Yeah.
That's what he became.
He did.
He became a grifter.
Again, so he created Trump for urban communities, right? And he even outfitted his, some vehicles. Let's see. This is one of them. This is a few of them. And it says famous black Republicans. You know, it's got pictures of Martin Luther King, you know, Jackie Robinson, you know, which this is ridiculous to begin with anyway. And we've talked about this many times, because even if these people were Republicans, even though I'm not so sure Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican, but even if they were Republicans, were they conservatives? It doesn't matter what political party they were affiliated with. Were they actually conservatives?
Them the old black men for Bernie Vance, probably. They just repaid the paint off.
Exactly.
But yeah, again, that's another sign that his support switching is disingenuous.
Yeah.
Because you do not have to do a lot of research. And actually, Martin Luther King's own writings, he denounced both the Republican and Democratic Party. He said neither party was adequate in regard to the liberation of black people and just people in general.
That's right.
So he called out both parties. So you know he's full of shit.
So anyway, once Bruce Carter joined the team and was like, yeah, I'm with Trump, the mission was very clear. He was to go into black communities. Now, so he was going to go into swing states, okay? He was going to go into black communities. And I guess he had one of two options. Okay, one, it was to get black people to vote for Donald Trump. Now, you could imagine how difficult that might be. All right. So if that didn't work, the second option was to get black people to stay the hell home on election day. His second option was to suppress the black vote so that they would not vote for Hillary Clinton.
Look at there. So we have another instance where somebody black is used, their resentment is co-opted, and used as a weapon against other black people.
Yeah, and he thinks he's doing it in the best interest of black people. How clownish of him.
But again, his primary, I guess, contact in all this was somebody who worked for Breitbart and not the White House, yo. No, so what got Mr. Carter all up in his feelings and wanting to kind of reveal this to the world? What got him all in his feelings?
The relationship was severed
because he didn't get paid, or he stopped getting paid.
Yeah, it was shortly after the election of Donald Trump. This relationship was severed. The way he tells it, they ran a background check because he thought he was going to be coming on to the team, he was going to be coming on to the transition team. He may even get a spot, in the White House or something like that. Like, he thought he was going to be on the Trump team. That didn't happen. So he says that they ran a background check, and because of what it turned up, they had to sever the ties with them. So he admits that I think it was a couple decades ago he had a felony gun charge on him, and I think he spent about 18 months in prison. You don't think they knew about that beforehand?
No, they did. Not only did they know about that beforehand, again, that's one of those other tactics. They were setting them up from the beginning.
Yes,
they were setting. They
already knew you weren't going to be a permanent place on this team,
especially with the individuals that are on Trump's team now, and with what a lot of them have been guilty of or indicted for. It's interesting that some sort of gun charge all of a sudden they have a problem with. Man, get out of here. Again, it just doesn't make sense. His switch doesn't make sense. And even if it was, he thought he was doing the right thing, it's still not even irresponsible. And again, it doesn't make sense. If your contact is from Breitbart and you know this, you think like you're working for the Trump campaign and you didn't really have any direct contact with anybody actually on the campaign team. He assumed he was working directly with the Trump campaign team without seeing or signing any paperwork.
Exactly. And see, and just again, like, because as you stated, he does still believe that he was working in the best interest of black people, people of color, like for these urban communities. He believes he did the right thing. Like his goal was pure. His initiative was pure, right? But just kind of hear the words that he says, right? So in this interview, when he's talking about what he was being called on to do in these, minority neighborhoods in these swing states. He says, if you can't stomach Trump, you just don't vote for the other people and just don't vote for the other people and don't vote at all. He says that he recalls telling black people that in these communities. He also says that's what they wanted, that's what they got. So that's what the Trump team, or that's what Stockton, or that's what Bannon wanted for this guy, Bruce Carter, to do. That's what they wanted. That's what they got. So you have no agency in this. You want to be a part of the team so badly. You want to have your influence, I guess. You want your influence to stay the same, or you want it to be increased so much.
He wanted 15 minutes of fame.
Yes, you want it so much that you're going to do exactly what they tell you to do, even if that means suppressing the black vote.
He wanted to get his shine on. That's basically what he wanted. And again, his support for Bernie Sanders could have been, in the right location, in the right place, with the right mindset. His support for Bernie Sanders might have been legitimate, but unfortunately that gets tainted with what happened subsequent to Bernie losing the primaries. I'm saying all that gets tainted now, and it kind of you question why he even supported Bernie Sanders and what he was really in it for. You see what I'm saying?
I don't know how many times we have talked about how different politicians, their integrity is for sale, right? Seems to be just the same case with this guy, Bruce Carter. Integrity for sale. And the moment that gravy train was severed, he's feeling, man, I'm a out this fool now. I'm gonna say exactly what happened. So there might be a problem though because of the money, the money thing, because he was paid, right? So this is from The Hill. All right, it says Carter's group did not report its finances, which he says he believed he was not required to do so as a member of the campaign. However, his group took donations, including at least one as large as $100,000 from a supporter, which far exceeds the legal $2,700 limit of contributions to a group that coordinates with the campaign.
Oh, so not only did he get played and he got used, they may have got this man caught up in campaign finance fraud.
Yep. Could have broke some FEC laws. So they really did a number on you, man. Like if you actually go down for something like this, like what did you end up accomplishing? Like how instrumental were you for advocating for urban communities? Because that was your goal, right?
He failed.
You got played. You were a clown. They used you as a tool. And when they were done with you, they cut bait.
Damn, you were actually should be used as an example of what black people in general, but specifically since your group was targeting black people, you are a good example of what black people shouldn't do. Example
1.
Man, this thing blows my mind, man. Yo, I'm gonna check his Facebook page out when we finish. I'm gonna see what he's talking about now.
He's actually I guess trying to put together another group.
Boo, nah.
He's trying to put another group together.
See, you done fucked up. You done fucked up, man.
Why should black people trust you at all ever again? You worked to suppress their voices.
And
why would anybody trust you again?
And you blindly supported the Trump campaign. That's another thing. You blindly supported them, and there's only one reason why you would blindly support somebody. It's because you felt you would get something out of it.
Yep. Selfish.
So
you weren't advocating for people. You were advocating for yourself. Just making sure you had a spot on that gravy train.
Yeah, the advocating for people was kind of the mask he put on. And again, we have a problem with that with everybody, but specifically we're talking about black people.
Yeah.
Black people are just ripe to be used like that because of the years of, I guess, a lack of representation, starvation. So that kind of creates this atmosphere where people will do anything just to feel like they're represented. And if you tack on a little bit of selfishness with that, you have somebody that can be used and manipulated to, I guess, carry out your agenda, which is what happened here.
And this was a guy that supported Bernie Sanders.
Boo.
Like, we talk about politicians all the time using people, not actually representing their constituents. And you supported Bernie Sanders, who was different than all of that, right? Turns out you weren't the same, though.
Yo, honestly, this is not actually a good representation of what Bernie Sanders represented. This dude right here who supported him.
So why the hell is he? Because there was a lot of fire behind Bernie Sanders' candidacy, right? There was a lot of tension to it, you know. It was like it was a new thing, you know. Bernie was a wild card, right? Like, nobody knew how much support he was going to draw, but when he was, you know, getting all these massive crowds and he was actually climbing in the polls and he was actually beating Clinton in some states, it's like, shoot, man, hold on, I got to get a part of this.
I got to become a part of this. And so when that goes away, how a person kind of proceeds after that does reveal who they are. And sorry, this joker got exposed, in my opinion.
Yeah, don't trust that dude, man. Don't trust that.
Start another group. Man, get out of here. Man, boo.
Start another group. Man, please. All right, yeah, let's go to the Jets. All right. So yeah, last week we talked about the new NFL policy where it mandates all team personnel to stand for the national anthem if they are on the field. Now, they do have the option of staying in the locker room during the performance, but if they are on that field, they have to stand. And if they don't stand, there will be a penalty. There could be like a fine that's applied to the team. And the teams have the option of fining their own personnel if they don't stand for the national anthem as well. So there was tremendous backlash, you know, regarding this policy. We talked about it because this is just forced patriotism. Not only is it forced patriotism, but you have established that the kneeling was disrespectful to the national anthem when the national anthem was nowhere in the conversation whatsoever. So again, there was a lot of talk about this. We talked about it. Another guy that talked about this is Representative Pete King out of New York. This guy, and I believe I do have. Do we have the? Yeah, we have the tweet. Yeah, we have the tweet. All right. So the New York Jets. Okay. Their acting owner is a guy by the name of Christopher Johnson. His brother is the one that actually owns the team, Woody Johnson. But Woody Johnson is not in that role anymore, or as of right now, because he's actually the ambassador to Britain in the Trump administration. Okay. So Christopher Johnson, he came out after this policy was revealed, and he said that any of his players that kneel for the flag or that kneel for the anthem, and, you know, if the team gets fined, that he's just going to have to bear that brunt. He's going to have to, you know, just eat that fine up. He's not going to apply that to his players because they have the right to do that. He's not going to mandate what players can and cannot do. He's not going to silence his players. So that was, like I said, that was pretty commendable. Like, I was very appreciative of him saying that because he was the only owner to say that in the NFL. I don't believe any other owner made a statement like that. But again, Representative Pete King of New York, he had some words for the New York Jets. So on Twitter, he said, disgraceful that the New York Jets owner will pay fines for players who kneel for the national anthem, encouraging a movement premised on lies versus police. Would he support all player protests? Would he pay fines of players giving Nazi salutes or spew racism? It's time to say goodbye to the Jets. So just before, you know, I'm going to throw this off to you, but just before anything else, as a Jets fan, okay, because I am a proud Jets fan, even though the team, you know, has had its challenges over the years. But as a Jets fan for many decades, I'm going to speak on behalf of all Jets fans and say goodbye to Pete King. I don't know if this dude was an actual fan of the New York Jets. He actually just lives in New York. He represents the New York State in Congress. But kiss my ass, man.
And he doesn't speak. I'm not a New York Jets fan. I'm not from New York. He's from New York. And Pete King, you don't speak for everybody who is a Jets fan or lives in New York, for one. So you can't say bye-bye to the Jets.
Yeah.
That's some very arrogant.
He's speaking for
stuff.
all people that support the Jets.
But something he did. I'm if he's going to disagree with it, fine. But he didn't really make an argument. He just somehow equated it to just everything else that's bad, even if it can't logically be compared. It's just interesting how so many people in this country confuse or conflate patriotism and nationalism.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
One of them, I guess is about principles, and it's supposed to, I guess, focus on or center on a country adhering to a set of values, while the other one kind of just gets people to adore symbols and kind of empty cheerleading.
It's like unbridled, just unreasonable support for a country, no matter if the country deserves that support whatsoever. If there are problems with the country, like, we don't want to hear all that. That's nationalism. Like, we don't want to hear all that. USA, USA, USA. We don't want to hear the problems.
He related to the Nazis, though, right?
He related to the Nazis.
But wouldn't forced patriotism, which is actually nationalism, wouldn't that relate to the Nazis a lot more than kneeling during the anthem? And if he's
too logic,
but again, shouldn't the national anthem itself draw more disgust from him if you look at the original context?
You think he's reading the original context?
I know. So naive of me, right?
Again, I've said it before, man. I don't give a damn about the national anthem, because especially if it's supposed to be all about this liberty, justice for all, you know, like equality in America, you have to go back to its roots. It wasn't made for everybody. Okay? Wasn't made for black people. So how could black people revere this song as it's actually representing us? It doesn't.
But see, if it was really about the patriotism as far as like the NFL goes, why is it just a requirement for the players to stand? You see what I'm saying? Wouldn't it, like, let's say individuals involved in like taking the tickets, like other individuals who work in the stadiums, who actually work for the NFL, wouldn't they make it a priority to have them stand as well, stop whatever they're doing and stand?
If you're gonna go that far, why don't you go even a step further? Why don't you mandate that everybody that purchases a ticket and comes into the stadium, they have to stand, and if they are caught not standing, you got to go? How come that's not the policy?
Groundkeepers, event staff, all those people. If it was really about patriotism and respect to the country, they would require all employees that are employed by the NFL to stop what they're doing. Even if it's not to come out in the field, they would require everybody to stop what they're doing. I wouldn't go as far as say as fans.
No, I would, because the teams can do that.
No.
If you come into the building, this is the rule.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, because the teams can set the rules for the stadium. Like they set the rules for what comes in or what cannot come into the stadium. What
behavior is appropriate and what is not.
Okay, I got you.
But we're not seeing that. What we're seeing from Pete King is that a Nazi salute, which is not just disrespectful, it's racist, is compared to kneeling, which was to respect the troops. Because you remember, Colin Kaepernick, who started this whole thing, he was sitting down.
Yeah.
Remember, he was sitting down on the bench. He wasn't standing for the national anthem.
Oh, yeah, and in the open letter from that former Green Beret.
That's right. He had a talk with him, and the guy felt like, hey, that, you know what, can we come to some kind of compromise, because that seems a little bit too disrespectful. And they came to the compromise of him kneeling, because kneeling actually signifies like respect. Right? So that's what Colin Kaepernick started doing. He started kneeling when the national anthem was being played. And for some reason, that act is being compared to a Nazi salute, which is racist.
He's projecting. That's what he's doing. He's trying to do this fallacious flip. That's what he's trying to do. So it kind of reveals to me kind of the inner workings of what ideology he actually supports, which is fascist ideology. He's just kind of projecting that on to somebody, calling it out. That's what a fascist would do.
But coming from P. King, this is very unsurprising because he has been critical of these actions from the beginning. And from, I believe this was in September of 2006 where he had very harsh words for Colin Kaepernick. He said that Colin Kaepernick's activism was, quote, sympathetic to ISIS. So the reason he said that was, he said, quote, I understand that he has an Islamic girlfriend that is his fiance, and that this has changed him and has taken on some different political views along the way. This is activism that's sympathetic to ISIS. Now, I remember talking about this back in 2016. So you're telling me that because somebody is Islamic, you have no idea what this woman's beliefs are. You have no idea anything about her. All you know that she is possibly Islamic, and that equates to ISIS? So Islamic is ISIS now?
Not only that, it almost suggests that any problem you have with the United States government makes you ISIS or makes you a terrorist. Because essentially that's what Colin Kaepernick's beef is, and that's what all the other players' beef is in regard to the issues they're trying to highlight, is improper treatment by government officials. So King is suggesting that anybody who protests or has a problem with the government in any way is ISIS or a terrorist. That's kind of what he's suggesting.
And all that's being done to shut down this conversation. They don't want to have this conversation. They don't want to focus on what's wrong with the United States of America. If we have to focus on it, then that means like we actually have to change stuff. And that makes us very uncomfortable. Like police brutality, we don't want to focus on that. All we want to do is support law enforcement. You're putting us in a very uncomfortable position. Would you please get up and stand?
And again, and I'm not, again, it's not just Peter King. He is, getting support from a base of people that kind of have this same perspective. If you just go randomly on the internet and look for the most, I guess, widely read articles about the NFL players kneeling and about this subject in general, go to the most popular sites, you can read comments from Americans, and it's disappointing. Now, there is a lot of Americans, and I'm glad there's a lot of American citizens that have kind of taken a very diplomatic approach, even if they disagree with it, because they understand the context behind why Colin Kaepernick and all these other players are kneeling. But a lot of people are kind of moving the goalposts because they know what it's about. So they make it about something else. So after, the conversation about what the Star Spangled Banner and what these songs actually represent and their true meaning, and actually listening to Colin Kaepernick and I guess seeing his character and seeing what he has done and seeing how much time he has devoted to the causes he supports, and as well as the other players, once they examine those, but they still want to kind of be in this cognitive dissonance type of mindset, they make it about something else. Yeah. They make it about, well, they're at work. They shouldn't do that because they're at work. I was like, okay, but now you're making it about something different. Yeah. Now it's not about the national anthem. Now it's about them doing something at work.
Yeah, them their job application. Obligations.
Their job obligation. I'm like, but wait a second. And I'm like, dude, don't players honor causes all the time, like by wearing socks or something on their shoes or something they gloves all the time, like when a player like what was Taylor died, what was his name, played for the Washington Redskins, Sean Taylor. Yeah. There was some players who had like some custom made socks with his number on it.
What about breast cancer month?
Or like a charity, they'll wear it on their shoes. Right. They'll do that all the NFL. They initiated something called like My Calls My Cleats.
Oh yeah. You remember that? I think this past season, I believe.
Exactly.
Where everybody, because there's very strict uniform guidelines, but now these players can support a cause on their uniform.
It was to bring attention to certain like charities, and it was in conjunction with players, so there was agreement. So there was actually custom made cleats with charities. There was custom made everything. So obviously the NFL doesn't have a problem with supporting certain causes. So we know that's not it. It only became a problem. It only became a problem because somebody wanted to support a particular cause. And in this case, it's actually different because he actually wasn't on the field or on the job actually protesting or really actively protesting, because kneeling during the anthem, he's not actually working then.
No, his job hasn't begun yet.
And it's kind of passive at that point.
Yeah.
But if you're going to talk about somebody doing something on the job, he really wasn't. The issue he brought up was actually in the locker room. He never brought it up on the field in a pregame interview or a postgame interview or a postgame press conference or in the huddle with his players. He wasn't even bringing any of that stuff up on the job. He was asked by a reporter, and that's how people found out. So it's not about players, I guess, wanting to get their causes supported on the job, because that job already contains that particular element where causes are supported every day. Like you said, Breast Cancer Month.
Mm-hmm. See, players make political statements all the time. It's just about if you're okay with their political statement. And with Colin Kaepernick's political statement, they're not okay with that. But you know what else is a political statement? The national anthem.
Thank you.
It's a damn political statement.
And why is it a political statement? We covered this last year.
Yep.
Where the military was doing what? Paying the NFL to put on these little patriotism shows.
Mm-hmm. And even going back to the inception of the national anthem from Francis Scott Key, it was about his view of the War of 1812. Okay? It's about politics, because he had a certain kind of view, didn't he? He thought black people were less than white people. That was his view. And he was begrudging black people that had joined the British in fighting against the United States because they wanted their freedom. And the British were saying that if you fight for us after the war, you're granted your freedom with us. And he begrudged that. And you can see that in the lyrics, in not the lyrics that are being sung, but in other stanzas, right? So it's a political statement all the way around. But when Colin Kaepernick or any other player kneels for it, no, that's a political statement that we just cannot accept.
Because it's about the issue that he brought up. That's what it's about. That's what it really is about.
All right. One more story we got. So there's a new video game set to be released on June 6th on Steam, which is a gaming platform owned by Valve Corporation. So the name of the game is Active Shooter, and players will be able to simulate active shooter. They will be able to simulate being an active shooter in a school, killing students and teachers. So obviously there's a lot of criticism about this game that is due to be released very soon. Politicians and parents of slain children have criticized this vehemently. More than 25,000 people have signed a petition on change.org urging the company not to release the video game. So as of right now, there are no plans for the video game not to come out, but there is, I guess, there's some speculation that the game might be altered. So the lead developer for the game, his name is Arthur Belkin, and he said, quote, "After receiving such high amount of critics and hate, I will more likely remove the shooter's role in this game by the release, unless it can be kept as it is right now." So that's kind of like I don't know what to do with that statement, because he's saying that it's possible that they do change the game, but then he's saying that we may keep it just the way it is. So I don't think anybody knows at this point if it will have that feature, because in the game you will have the option, because this according to promotional material, you will have the option of being a SWAT team officer that is responding to an active shooting, or you will have the option of being the actual active shooter who is and the goal is to quote, hunt and destroy at a school.
Now, from what I was reading, the option of being the SWAT team on the SWAT team was the option. I think game developers later on added the other option of being the actual shooter. Now, I know that there are plenty of other first-person games out there.
Right.
Fine. A lot of those involved, like Call of Duty, like war games. A lot of those involve like sci-fi type based games where you got to go to another planet. Or there was one game where it's like it's kind of zombies, where the central plot. Yeah, those exist. I don't want to get into a situation of censorship.
Right.
But this is bad taste, man. This is what I'm saying is, I don't judge people for playing violent video games. I don't think video games like cause violence or something. I do think in some cases it does desensitize people to violence that's already existing. But I will question somebody. I will definitely question somebody if they buy this game and they want to be the active shooter. I'm definitely questioning their mental state. I'm sorry.
I agree. One guy whose name is Ryan Petty, he lost his 14-year-old daughter Elena in the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. He called the game despicable. Fred Guttenberg, whose daughter Jamie also died at that same shooting. He said in a tweet, quote, "This company should face the wrath of everyone who cares about school and public safety, and it should start immediately. Do not buy this game for your kids or any other game made by this company." So I'm with you in that this is completely in bad taste, and I believe that there should be backlash. I believe that there should be much criticism. I don't believe that anybody should support the making of this game or should be supporting the selling of this video game.
It's kind of sick, man.
It's sick, but I will stop at censorship as well.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you detailed different games as well where there's first-person shooting. I can name like Grand Theft Auto, where you can do all kinds of stuff. You can kill anybody.
You can rape people.
Yeah, exactly. You can just kill everybody on the street. But this is, if you would, like a new low, because the environment that is in the United States right now, especially within schools, and how you don't know when it's going to happen next and what school is going to happen in. There seems to be just a pattern of these school shootings. And so it's a very sensitive topic, and there's a lot of carnage.
You would have to get some, like, for somebody to, because video games is about entertainment and enjoyment.
Yes.
Like, what kind of person would, receive some sort of adrenaline rush or an enjoyment from being a first-person shooter shooting up students? It's like, what if there was like a lynching game where you can walk around a first-person lynching game, and you can lynch people left and right. I would question somebody who found some amusement in that and who found that entertaining.
Yeah, or just very graphic, like a raping game or something like that. Like if that appeals to you, then something is wrong with you. But I wouldn't go as far as censorship. Yeah. Again, like there should be a campaign to educate people. Like, hey, do not support this company. Do not support this game. Do not buy this game. You shouldn't be funding this initiative. Exactly. But I think it seems like for anybody that's calling for censorship, seems like more like a better use of your time would be to advocate for things changing in America. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the wrong way to go. Like, let them do what they do. Punish them by not actually putting money in their pockets. Yeah, but if we want to actually do something here to like just limit all of these shootings from our society, and we got to speak to the people that are actually making these decisions, or allowing these things to happen. Those aren't game creators.
No, it's not. It's not. So yeah, we're definitely not for censoring this company. Yeah. From like putting this game out, but it's pretty much
like boycotting the
boycotting. And I don't think, honestly, I don't even think you have to be kind of a witness or have experienced a school shooting or a mass shooting, but specifically school shooting as a student or a faculty member, or have had a child die or experience it. I don't think
you don't have to be that close.
I don't even think you have to be that close to the situation to kind of give this a side eye.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, you know, killing is one thing. You know, just like in general, like killing is one thing, especially if like you're killing bad guys. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, you see that on TV, you see that on movies all the time. Right now here in the United States of America, and we see that school shootings, I mean, they just happen just like every month, really. Like, I mean, it's like so many times you see these things happening in our society. To say it's a sore topic is like, that's putting it very mildly. I mean, people are dying, like kids are dying. To create a game where you're like capitalizing on that, when you said like that the actual purpose of the game was to actually be a SWAT team officer, and that they added that element, you're capitalizing on what's relevant here in society right now.
That's different, because now it's different to be, you know, in the position of like, I guess somebody who's seen as like a hero. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit different than, you know, you're trying to prevent it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now the shooter is the villain, which kind of puts the game in a different context. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Like I said, it's trash.
Yeah, it's trash, man. Yeah, it's trash. Like you said, if anybody's picking up that game to, you know, play the game in that role,
I don't want to be nowhere near that person.
Exactly, man. Eyebrows up, man, because that person is suspicious for real. All right. That is the end of the content for our show. That's all we got for you. We didn't get too much longer than we usually go, 9:20 right now. So what we're gonna do is open the show up for calls. Anybody that has a question or a comment, please do so. The number to call into the show, I still don't have it memorized. The number is 869. The number is 669-900-6833. Then you have to put the ID number in there as well. But yeah, like I said, if you have anything that you'd like to add to the conversation, anything that we have addressed on this show, or maybe something that we have addressed on previous shows, or maybe something that just didn't come up today.
It was somebody on Facebook.
Yeah, that said they were going to call in.
She's like, I'm finally going to call in.
Yeah, I saw that.
I forgot the name, but yeah, she said she's going to follow.
I think it was Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So I hope Brooklyn is still watching, and she will give us a ring. So that,
I know it's kind of hard to kind of keep your endurance up, because it is a 2-hour show and you have to wait to the end. But we hope you are still with us.
All right, hopefully we won't have the same problem that we had on the last show, where
we couldn't hear the call. Well,
we could hear the caller, but you couldn't hear the caller. So let's just see, and we'll make sure that before we actually engage with the caller, we'll make sure that you can hear them.
Y'all can hear the person.
Yes. All right, so nobody waiting as of yet. So hold on, let's set this up. All right. Are we still live? I think we're still live. Yes, we are. All right. So I think we got some callers that are wanting to join the program. So we're going to get started with the first caller. And that is... Oh, hold on. I can't hear it. Can you hear it? Oh, let's see. That's area code 443. Caller, you're on the air with LTMB. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Good. Before you continue, let's just make sure that you can be heard by the audience. Somebody, please let us know if you can hear our callers.
How y'all doing tonight?
We're doing good, man. How about you, man?
Doing pretty good.
This is Jose? No.
Nah, this court.
This court.
See, man, see, the 443 is killing me, man. See, I thought you were somebody else. See, I thought you were calling the last show, but it was somebody else with the same area code, man.
Man, what's good with you, man? What's good with you?
I was thinking about the Roseanne piece that y'all did, and the Bernie, Black Men for Bernie Peace, and you know what was the other one? The one where I wanted to get into about that young man that was shot like that.
Woods.
Mario Woods.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was brutal. But that kind of, like Roseanne, man, I'm kind of glad her show got canceled. I mean, I get that you don't want to censor stuff, and I get that you don't want to set the tone, I guess. But see, America has a real problem with hate, and if you notice, America doesn't really have any kind of anti-hate speech laws. So people can really get away. They can go out and say anything that they want, really. And the only thing that can stop them is enforcement and violence. So like BLM, Black Lives Matter, they get called a terrorist group while neo-Nazis get defended. And a lot of it is because the way racism works in America is just how subtle and how blurry they make the lines. You know, like Roseanne, the reason why I'm glad her show got canceled is because a lot of Americans listen to her. A lot of Americans admire her. And there's no, you know, I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't believe the kind of political spin that she's going to put on her show. And you know, I would just sit there and watch. Like I can't watch like mainstream TV really, but I would hear clips of it, and I'd be like, wow, that is pretty racist. And you know, nobody would pick it up though because it's in Roseanne, and it's subtle. And it's from somebody who you know admired in your childhood. It's just the way American racism works. That's why when black people sell out, like you know when you get the dude who's stumping for Trump, right? The black dude who's stumping for Trump. I mean, you don't really, white people aren't going to go out there and say, wow, man, you should really think about your life because what you're doing is you're advocating for the enslavement of your people. Like white people aren't going to say that. Right? Like even the ones who would care about the outcome of something like that. But he gets away with it and he gets rewarded for it because insidious people will use him for it. They'll continue to make money off of his antics and his shenanigans. It's like Herman Cain. You know what I mean? Like when they find a politician who's black and he wants to be conservative or he wants to portray a conservative, the vultures come in almost immediately. And it's so subtle that you can have episodes of violence where people get shot 20 times in the street and you barely even hear about it. You don't even hear about it. That's just how insidious that it gets. So yeah, I'm glad her show was canceled. You know what I mean? Because to me, it just seems like these people use the subtlety of home and hearth and neighbors to convey these ideas of hatred. And sometimes it's really disgusting. I mean, that's why you can have a video game like Active Shooter. That's why that can actually come up. And think about it. Nobody said anything really after Sandy Hook other than it was a hoax. And let's start blaming parents for being crisis actors. It's because the way they weave this shit into society, it's so the effort is so minimal for the person to believe it. You don't even really have to be a violent racist. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a neo-Nazi to not want to see a minority get ahead. There really is no reason to think that, right? And that's why America, and that's another thing America does, it presents all racism as this violent extreme. But it's not a violent extreme. It's a subtle ideology that just continually builds upon itself until you can do things to people that you won't, you would never do under any other circumstance, but that you think you could save your skin or your resource. This is why it's
self-preservation. That's what we saw with slavery, man. A lot of these poor white people, did they? I mean, like, could you say like all of them really wanted to enslave black people? I mean, I don't know if you could say that about all of them, but a lot of them were interested in self-preservation, so they were okay with just being silent about it and not really rocking the boat and being like, hey, they're worse off than me, count that as a win for me, and we see those kind of things, not on that same level, but we see the same things today with Bruce Carter. Man, This guy, you know, he wanted to be relevant, man, and we've said many times before that there's a lot of money out there to be made for the black conservative. Like, if we really wanted to make some money, like if we really wanted to sell out, the best way we would sell out is to be conservative. That's the best approach.
Play conservative.
Yeah, play conservative.
Yeah, we joke.
Yeah,
about
it can't be
time.
conservative, but yeah, play conservative. Get a spot on some kind of Blaze TV, Fox News.
Candace Owens. Candace Owens.
You know, something like that. And yeah, I'm sure there will be a lot of white people that will be like, hey, see, look at these black guys. See, they're telling these black people all over the country what's really up.
Isn't that interesting though? Because I think that the point that Court brought up when talking about how Herman Cain responded to the Roseanne issue kind of highlights a gross irony amongst black conservatives, because they're the first ones to always point out, including their white counterparts on their side, they're the first to point out black people who vote Democrat and are in a Democratic Party and talk about enslaved to the party. They're on the plantation. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's like really essentially the whole political system is a plantation, so it's a wash to me. So they may be telling the truth, but the half truth. So yes, the whole political system is a plantation, but I think it's ironic that black conservatives that vote Republican and kind of champion and co-sign on conservative and Republican policies would tell black people who vote Democrat to get off the plantation. But anytime a situation pops off, like whether it be like Roseanne or something Sean Hannity said or something blatantly racist, these Republicans run to these black conservative Republicans and they have to kind of till the field in the Republican plantation and push their agenda. But they're out here being all self-righteous as if they're not on that plantation tilling that field. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That shit is funny to me.
If black people are on the plantation, so are white people. Yeah.
You know, Mike and Will, you know what that is? That's that old house slave mentality. You know, like when you get comfortable, right, and you don't want to fight for your freedom anymore, and yet you'll try to betray your own people to take their freedom for your benefit. What you end up doing is you end up becoming a validation tool for your master, right? Because he can always or she can always say, like, look, this person, they don't think it's so bad. I mean, we run things here, but they don't think it's so bad. They've made it. You become their validation tool. They turn you into, the confirmation that everything is okay.
Agreed,
that's what's so insidious about selling out like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I know people get it, and I know that it's a valid way to survive, right? I mean, it's a sociopathic way to survive, but it's a valid way to survive. So when people do those kind of things, you know the kind of troubles that they will run into. But the issue that I always come back to is it could be much lessened. It could be much easier for most everyone if people would just not allow that kind of shit to happen. I mean, I don't understand why people think it's so easy to exploit versus earn, and then scream about other people not earning all the time, because it's basically what it comes down to.
Agreed, man. Totally agree with you, man. Appreciate you calling in again, Court.
All right, fellas, y'all take it easy.
All right, man. All right, we're gonna go to the next caller, 704 area code. Hello, caller. All right, hold on. Yeah, 704.
Hey, man, what's up?
What's going on, man? Who's this?
This is Will. From North Carolina.
Will, Big Will. What's up, man?
What's up, fellas? Yeah, I wasn't able to tune into your show last week. I did catch it afterwards, but I was busy. But I wanted to call in today, and what I wanted to talk about is it kind of goes into a little bit to do with Roseanne debacle. It's something I mentioned last time I called in. I was talking about how we talk about the individual who engages in aberrant behavior and sort of isolate we really do isolate the incident to that individual when we talk about how, Roseanne gets the show canceled and there's a lot of outrage. It's aimed toward Roseanne, and we're not looking at the root cause of this aberrant behavior, and so we're missing a perfect learning opportunity and an opportunity to improve and to show, to highlight what the real problems are when we do this. The real problem is that we have a socioeconomic system that produces aberrant behavior, and it doesn't matter who engages in the behavior, because we're going to see that behavior when we expect to see it. And with the things that are going on with the way our government operates and just our society as a whole, we can expect this behavior. We're going to see it. It don't matter who it is. And we shouldn't crucify Roseanne Barr, because her actions are the result of ignorance and propaganda. And if we don't start identifying and addressing the root cause of the behavior, then we're just missing opportunities to make improvements, which we all can agree we have plenty of improvements to make.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. I believe that Roseanne, she should be talked about, because her attitude isn't just her attitude. Her mind frame isn't just her mind frame. It's pervasive in this country and has been for generations. So, just talking about how that is outwardly expressed is something that we should do as a country. It's kind of funny that happens on a day where Starbucks is closing down for implicit bias training. Mm-hmm. It's kind of happy that it happened. It's kind of coincidental that it happened on the same day. And I've seen people, on social media saying that it's not just Starbucks that needs to close down. America needs to close down for the same kind of training, because it's taken so many years to cultivate these kind of beliefs and these attitudes just about people. With Roseanne, I know Mike was saying that, she's still funny. She can still be funny on other things. And I know with comedians, they they really they stay on that fence, they really try to approach the fence, not go over it, and if it's about something that's stereotypical can be very funny, because a lot of people have stereotypes that they believe about different people, and a lot of times it's very true, it's accurate. Now, if you're only telling comedy about one particular segment of society or one particular race or creed or whatever like that, then it's gonna be okay, you're just being hateful, you're just being disrespectful. But if you're moving it around and just talking about people in general, and you're just talking about stereotypes, that can be funny. That's not what Roseanne did at all. So she does need to be criticized. It can develop into a larger conversation like you were talking about, though. And
I honestly don't think that simply the economic status of a country by itself is what creates a division, especially when economics and identity have been kind of tied to one another, and what people believe about other people and what they should have. I think the root cause is more or less how people perceive each other. And I think an economic system is going to be based off of how people perceive other people. This is why the slave trade and chattel slavery affected a certain group more so than the other. If it was just about economics and people being economically deprived, then there would have been just as many white Americans who were enslaved. There would have been just as Jim Crow laws would have focused on white people. If it was just about economics and people being frustrated because of their economic situation, which I do agree with you for one part, but there's another side of capitalism that kind of already tiers people. There's a side of capitalism that already puts people in a hierarchy that determines their status. So to contribute to the wealth gap between different groups of people. So the wealth gaps and the lack of the wealth disparity that we see between groups is based off of a system created based on those attitudes. Those two, we can separate both of those things, and those two things are together. So I think you're right in that sense, in that there's a larger conversation that needs to be had about, you know, wealth inequality and how it affects everybody. But I also see there's another conversation that needs to be had about how everyone is viewed and how different groups are viewed, and how there's come like this caste system that has been set up, which determines economic outcomes. So,
okay, what I want to say is that this actually is perfectly leads into another issue that's very closely related. I always respect you guys' opinion, I disagree a little bit with you, Mike, though, on this in this particular situation. Now, I will say, you know, it's okay that Roseanne's specifically being criticized. That's fine. Also, of course, she needs to be part of the conversation, because this whole situation is the conduit for a discussion. So, of course, Roseanne's going to be a large part. ABC missed a big chance. That's the bigger issue for me. Is they missed a big chance. I mean, they always shut down the show. You know, this has the potential to only further censorship. And once we get comfortable with censorship, because we have this rash of racism that's become emboldened by Donald Trump and other factors, this is a dangerous situation we find ourselves in, because once we start censoring this, and once we become comfortable with censorship, look at how easy it's going to be able to, or how easy it's going to transition into the censorship of other socioeconomic systems, just like we've seen in this country for a long time with socialism and communism. I mean, the Red Scare, we're seeing neo-McCarthyism play out right now. We're seeing Act 2 of McCarthy, we're seeing McCarthy 2.0 act out right now. Every progressive candidate from here to the UK and all over the world is subject to a new McCarthyism. And that being said, I don't think you can separate. This goes into a different subject a little bit. I don't think you can separate economics from racism. I don't think it's about, economics is the father, or socioeconomic inequality is the father of racism. Now, there are people who are just blatantly bigoted and racist, but that's actually a side effect. These people are very ignorant, and there was a reason for the propaganda that led to the killings of people, and that reason was economic. And the reason it affected blacks more is because they were a minority, not because of their color of their skin. If this was a nation where white people were a minority and blacks were a majority, then we would have a perfect situation set up for the exact same circumstances, but the roles would be reversed between black people and white people. So I just think it's a big mistake, a huge mistake, to try to separate economic inequality from racism.
I think you're actually making. Will, man, I think you're actually making the point that I was making, but we're gonna kind of take that point you made, and we're gonna talk about it. But we're gonna take this next call. It's probably gonna be our last call. I don't know. We don't got that much time left, but we're gonna take this next call to see what they have to say. But I'll remember that question and we'll address it. Okay. Appreciate your call, bro.
Thank you, man. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks for calling in, man. You too.
You too, man.
All right, we got 770 on the phone. You're on the line with LTMB. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? Who's this?
This is Tony.
Calling
out of Atlanta.
Appreciate you for calling in, man.
ATL.
Yep. I was just gonna comment. It's okay. Is cursing allowed? Because sometimes I curse. I don't curse a lot, but sometimes it slips out.
Man,
go ahead, man. Do you?
You good, man? Do you, man?
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the guy that was pissed off about you covering the Roseanne story on Facebook. I'm like, golly, man. It's like the other stuff to me, what you're talking about, was like way more important, like denuclearization, these peace talks, getting North Korea back together. I mean, that seems to me way more important than Roseanne, a sitcom. But that's just me. I don't know. I think millions of other people would agree with me too. But
that's a
maybe
good
not
point,
Americans,
man.
But
That's a good point.
And also that story about that black man, about
Bruce
burnt the black man for Bernie.
Yeah.
Sometimes I be feeling like these stories are good when they come out. I like reading about them, finding out, like more angles as to why, some people preferred not to vote for Hillary. Mm-hmm. Also, at the same time, I think people didn't like her to begin with going into it, long before. But I guess that's neither here nor there. But sometimes it seems like these types of stories like gives fuel to the fire as far as like establishment Democrats see this. To really not change, because they're like, well, see, you have these guys, they're getting duped, and if that didn't happen, we would have won anyways.
Right.
And I think it's more, I mean, it's a multifaceted type thing. It's not simply like people take this and run with it all or nothing. They don't think about the voter suppression laws that got passed in Wisconsin. They'll forget about the almost 250,000 people that got purge off those voter rolls, and you know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I get what you're saying. You're saying that the Democrats and the kind of those that represent the establishment in this country that kind of have a hold in our politics will, instead of looking at the other factors that probably contributed to them losing, will just use situations like these to kind of undermine competition in the future. And that's why it's very important that kind of people who are trying to be on the right side of history, like get their I guess their mental ducks in order and make sure their mind is in the right place. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, that the political elite are always looking for fuck ups, to try to close, to close third parties out, to try to close grassroots organizations out, and they're always trying to look for fuck ups like this.
See, think about where we were.
I cursed. See, man, you got.
Think about where we were in 2016, man. Okay, all throughout the primaries. Okay, for everybody that supported Bernie Sanders' candidacy, think about what we were doing along the line in all these primaries in different states. We were complaining about voter suppression. We were complaining about people, long lines and precincts being shut down and not open, and not an open primary. We were complaining about all these things and how the Democrats were just getting in the way of like democracy, right? And you have a man in Bruce Carter that supported Bernie Sanders, black men for Bernie. You have a man that I can't be for sure that he talked about voter suppression as it related to Bernie Sanders, but then he jumped on the Trump team and he actually suppressed the black vote for Donald Trump, even though you were saying the same shit about the Democratic Party. Like that's some bullshit, man.
It doesn't make any logical sense. Why the hell would you? First of all, the ideologies just don't line up.
Nope.
I mean, I can't really. I got to read more into it instead of just that one story. I probably need to read like 2 or 3 different stories from different sources.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
But I understand that. To me, when I read it, it was blowing me away. And of course, I'm in a lot of black groups on Facebook, and everybody's like, see, the Bernie Bros did this. Like, no, we do. What the hell are you talking about?
Yo, yes, exactly. You're totally right about this. Like every article I read about this situation in the comments section, that's exactly what I heard. Like, you see, like all these Bernie supporters were spreading all this propaganda against Hillary Clinton. I was like, this had nothing to do with information or political leanings or political affiliations or political allegiances. This had nothing to do with politics. This is about this one dude who who kind of use this opportunity for personal gain, and now all of a sudden the entire Bernie movement is tainted. Yeah. Like that's the reaction I saw in every single article. Like
he wanted to stay relevant, so he did this.
See, all these people just bought into the propaganda about Hillary Clinton. I'm like, wow, like see,
nah, man.
Damn.
Like the people that actually supported Bernie Sanders and stayed true to, like the people that supported him weren't like just like hero worshippers, and they didn't come to Bernie Sanders in the way that like they were being like, I guess, educated by him. They already had like an idea of what politics should be, like what this nation should be. And when they heard the same kind of things emanating from Bernie Sanders' mouth, it was like, damn, hold up. We got a candidate that's actually willing to say these things. He's not taking all this money. He's not got a super PAC. Like he's very different from the Democratic establishment. That's why I can support him. That type of person that was actually true to that message, true to themselves, they didn't go to support Donald Trump. I'm sorry, they just didn't.
And where did a lot of Bernie supporters go? People who voted for Bernie in the primaries, where did they go? Who did they vote for? The majority of them.
They went to Hillary, man.
Okay,
Clinton.
Then, so why
they voted for Clinton?
Yep.
Yeah. So why are people mad and saying that these Bernie supporters bought into the propaganda waged in opposition against Hillary Clinton? I'm like,
there's no telling like how much success that Bruce Carter had in these different cities talking to black people, trying to get them to support Trump or just stay home. I mean, there's no way we can like really like tally that up.
Exactly. In order to have some like significant impact, it would have to be like 1,000 Bruce Carters.
Exactly. So I'm not going to say that he's the reason why she lost and why we have Trump, but I am saying what he did was absolutely reprehensible, coming from a man that supported Bernie Sanders and having a strong stance against the Democratic, voter suppression, and then you engage in the same damn thing just because you want to stay relevant, man. That dude.
And like Tony
said,
disgusts
me, man.
Like Tony said, probably the most kind of the central point in all this is the fact that the platforms and the ideology doesn't line up.
Exactly, man. So he was doing it for a reason. It wasn't because he thought Trump was going to be the best way forward. Man, get out of here with that nonsense, man.
He convinced himself that was the reason in order to rationalize it to himself, in order to massage his own conscience. That's what that was about. And again, that's a human move. I wouldn't say it's a abhorrently corrupt
survival
move. It's like Court said, survival. And that's kind of the position humans who are kind of in a position where they have been marginalized find themselves in. But their humanness doesn't go away because of that. And unfortunately, those negative human traits took over in this case.
You do that, man. You just have no integrity, man. I'm sorry, man. Like, I can't remember the name of this new organization that he's putting together, but I saw it. I just can't remember. But man, I hope it doesn't have any kind of success. I hope people are not willing to join whatever fight, whatever struggle with this guy, man, because this dude cannot be trusted, man. He will sell you out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, like I said, it's bad that he's doing it. And I enjoy reading when these stories come. I don't enjoy reading this. It's kind of disheartening, but it's good to know about it. But at the same time, it's like, no, dude, this isn't us, the Bernie Bros, quote unquote. This guy wasn't the reason why Hillary lost. This is ridiculous, especially when Bernie like stumped for Hillary and was supporting her the whole damn time after the primaries.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
And so was Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
So why not use the figurehead as the prime example of where kind of a movement decided to go after the primaries
and the results?
It was Hillary Clinton. She did the Pied Piper strategy. She's the one that propped up Donald Trump. Like, give me a break.
Yeah. I think kind of like I think everybody knows that she thought that she could kind of slide in there,
wipe the floor with them,
slide in and just let like Donald Trump talk his way out of the White House, but it didn't work. They were like, yeah, let's just give him the floor because in that way I don't really have to do as much work.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? They already had her crown fitted. They already they rolled out the red carpet for her. They already had her. They already had the Queen's attire already, tailored, and that thing
they were picking out drapes and everything.
Oh, you stupid! The junk is hanging up in the closet somewhere now.
Yeah, but people forget that she had a very low favorable rating as well as Trump. But Trump is he's better entertaining people.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point to mention, and you know how we are as Americans. We love to be entertained.
And what is politics about, man?
Entertainment
and popularity.
Entertainment.
Man. And he's you know that WWF ringside kind of entertainment.
And people were so into this idea that like we want something different. You know, we don't want a politician. We don't want an establishment politician.
It didn't matter how different looked. That's the crazy part about it.
They bought into what he was selling, man, even though it was based on BS, man. They bought into it. And Hillary Clinton, it was all about projecting something that was negative for the country instead of trying to inspire people, you know?
Didn't she recently say she was what magazine said that she was an inspirational figure? There was a recent little article.
Was it?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was either a magazine or some news site that said she was like the most inspirational figure in America or something. I can't remember. She also said that I forgot where she was. She was taking some question and answer somewhere or some interview, and she was the interviewer asked her like if she could take over a company or something. What would it be?
Yeah.
And this chick said Facebook.
Yeah, because she was saying that
I read that.
Facebook, yeah. Because Facebook is the largest news platform. That's where many Americans get their news from. So
she said this is where a lot of people get their information from, whether true or not.
Right.
I was like, my ears perked up when she said the or not part. I was like, yeah.
Well, she's right. I mean,
yeah,
I'll give her that. She's right on that, but it's not but she's doing it for like the wrong reasons.
True that.
Like, I mean, like,
but she a little late too.
Exactly. But the whole reason, like, she would even say Facebook is because of the controversy. With Facebook
there with like Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah, but if she's in there, you telling me she ain't going to try to pull some hijinks? You know, she's not trying to
mine some data. And stuff like that.
She's not trying to like suppress some news coverage. You know,
heck yeah, she's going to do. Yeah. She's going to do like the same thing Trump does, but she's not.
That was the whole purpose of her set the record straight campaign.
Oh yeah, correct the record. Yeah, correct the record.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
That's it.
You know what? Thank you for bringing that up, because essentially that was her more. That was a more. That was well, I wouldn't call it passive. I would call it passive in comparison to Donald Trump, but technically, she is kind of in that whole fake news kind of jargon too. She just didn't do it like outwardly and openly and kind of rhetorically. She kind of did it in other ways that were a little like less intrusive and less abrasive, because essentially that's what Correct the Record was. It was to counter fake news against her. We just didn't call it fake news.
Do you remember when she sold that idea about Vermont being responsible for the gun problem in New York? You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
That's fake ass news that she sold. So please, man, no, you couldn't trust Hillary Clinton to head up Facebook.
Hillary Clinton is just as sensitive to negative news about her as Donald Trump. It's just that Donald Trump just doesn't know how to bottle it up like she does. See, Donald Trump just kind of like walks around like a cranky little baby, to whereas Hillary Clinton kind of does it in a more dignified way.
Yeah, she projects a more like professional manner. You know, she's not gonna be on Twitter at 2 a.m., 4 a.m. just mouthing off and like rambling about something that does not even make sense, or just like saying something without evidence. That's not gonna be her style, but she's gonna be selling just as much crap as he does, just in a different way.
Just in a different way. And she's gonna try to deflect anything negative not in the same way that he does, doing the same thing, but just in a different way. He's just gonna just deflect it.
Well, we got about 4 minutes. I'll ask you, Tony. What do you think about the prospects of 2020? Like right now, I know it's a long way off, but what do you think about what's to come in 2020? Like who may run? Who could you see like being a viable candidate going against Trump?
Barring any heart attacks or cancer or anything, somebody dropped dead. I think that Bernie's going to run again. I think that Elizabeth Warren will probably run because they all put out books. When they put out books, that usually means they're going to run. Right. Then you got the second tier, like Kamala Harris. She's going to run. I think Cory Booker's going to run. And I think it's going to be not quite as bad as the Republican primaries, but it's going to be kind of a bloodbath with them.
Now, another question, okay? Do you think that with, like, as we have seen in the recent months, we have seen these Democrats, these establishment Democrats kind of co-opt Bernie's message, especially as it relates to like marijuana and universal health care. So do you think that by the time 2020 comes in, maybe they've made more moves along the way and co-opt even more of his message? Do you think that he could remain the front runner, or do you think like all the money that's going to be put behind these other establishment candidates will do him in once again?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would like to think that he would become the front runner. But I don't know. I mean, I thought he was going to become the front runner in 2016, and that didn't work out right.
No. Yeah, it's an interesting question, man, because I think about that. Because, like I said, I mean, they're laying the landscape. They see, like, if they want to be relevant in 2020, they saw how 2016 came, or how 2016 went, and of course, Hillary Clinton won, but she didn't win the general, and there was a lot more enthusiasm with Bernie Sanders' campaign. So, I in their moves, in their actions, it feels like they sense that, and they sense that like they really do want to give voters something to vote for. Like they don't want to just play defense and say how bad and horrible this Trump administration is. So by them, like I said, co-opting Bernie's message, if he does run, it just like they already said that Hillary Clinton and Bernie was the same in 2016, and that wasn't true. We all saw that. But if they're actually able to make that case, I wonder how effective Bernie will be.
Yeah, because there will be less of a perceived contrast.
Perceived, yeah.
I think right now, I mean, it's just my personal thoughts. I mean, I know somebody will probably drag me online for saying it, but I think that Bernie's biggest obstacle is us. It's the black voting bloc.
Okay.
That's how I see it. I mean, if he doesn't win, and I'm not talking about the millennials, because we saw the polls for the black millennials. They love Bernie. I'm talking about the middle-aged people. If he can't win the middle-aged black voting bloc, it's gonna be rough, dude.
No, I think you're right, man. I think you're right, because I'm right in ground zero. You know what I'm saying? I have family, and I kind of see how they talk about things, and they're kind of just still stuck. You know what I'm saying? With kind of getting behind who is the most prominent Democrat. So I see it in my own family. So I see what you're saying. So.
All right, Tony, we're just about out of time, but appreciate you for calling in, man. You added a lot to the program, man. Gave us a lot to talk about, man.
All right, y'all have a good night, man.
All right, you too, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like you said, I think he's absolutely right. I mean, it will be definitely important to get the black vote if Bernie runs. To think about who would be the challenger in that race, if Kamala Harris does run, there's going to be a lot of things working against Bernie Sanders, and one of them is going to be Kamala Harris is black. I mean, look, that's just a reality that everybody has to admit. She's a part of the Democratic Party, she's been in the Democratic Party, and you're going to have those people that say Bernie's not really a Democrat, he's an independent. So that's one thing right there. She's going to have the money behind her, and she will most likely, and even that is taming it a little bit, but she will most likely get that black vote.
Didn't she get to go to a HBCU too? I think it was like either Howard or their rival. I can't remember.
She appears,
is it Howard or Hampton? I can't remember.
Boy, you know what? I got a question for you. I got a question, though. Who's phonier, Booker or Harris?
That's a toss-up.
It is.
That's a damn toss-up, man.
Me, I just might be
Booker.
See, I was gonna say Harris.
I was gonna say Booker, maybe because only because we've witnessed him more being fake. That's the only reason.
See, me, I think it's like I'm a prisoner of the moment because of the last thing we saw. That
Breakfast Club.
No. See, you just adding more material. But no, I'm talking about
the question
she fielded in California. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that was in California, but anyway, when she fielded that question,
you can't always get the answer you want. When the guy asked, "Will you be taking corporate money or something?"
Right. And she was like, "Oh, it depends."
And then he was like, "Well, wrong answer." And then she was like, "Well, you want all you know what they say. You don't always get the answer you want." And then she said something else.
Oh yeah, she said it was like a long answer. But it was completely ridiculous, and the crowd applauded. And like, if you heard this,
the moderator said, "Oh, that was Bye Felicia moment." Yeah. And everybody started applauding. I was like,
if you heard her response, you'd been like, there's no way a crowd should applaud that because it was totally ridiculous, man. That's not what people should be advocating for. But see, I like I said, like that's a lasting, I guess, event in my mind.
And then I when I was talking about the Breakfast Club, I remember them asking her a question, and she answered it in a regular way. So she almost slipped up, and then like she started over as if she didn't answer it, and then like her pitch and her voice inflection tone changed all of a sudden. Like, and she like code switched. I was like, yo, I was like, did anybody else see that? You started answering the question already. You were already like 2 or 3 seconds into it, and then you stopped. Like, it was very noticeable that she code switched, and her like tone and her voice inflection changed to like,
like slang sort of
slangish. I was like, did anybody just say that? Shit was so obvious. I was like, man.
Yeah, man. And then it was like, just speaking about that, when she was on the Breakfast Club, that was just a few days after she had fielded that question at that town hall when she was like, it depends. And then I guess she had this revelation. She came to this decision that, you know what? I'm not going to take corporate money. Man, get out of here.
You don't kind of switch up in such a drastic way, like in such close proximity.
You weren't ready for that question on this day, but a couple of days later, it's like, hey, I've given this a lot of thought. You know what? Corporate money is bad. It's really bad.
As if she didn't have enough time to give it thought before she fielded that question. As if that hasn't been like one of the central issues in politics for the past like couple years.
It was like the main point in the Democratic Party. That was like the main content. Like, everybody was talking about that because of Bernie Sanders. So you're telling me like, it seems like you really didn't even have an opinion on it. You were like, well, it depends. So like, I guess I got to think about this. So I thought about it 2 days later, and you know what? I decided it's bad. Get out of here, man.
I thought about it, and I decided it was bad optics for my campaign.
That's a more real statement right there. But she didn't say it like that. But no, she didn't say it like that. Yeah, so. What about a question we were going to get back to?
Oh, you mean Will?
Yeah.
Will, see, like I think he was kind of making the same point I was making without like knowing he was making the same point, because, I guess he was trying to say that because there's an out group there shouldn't be an out group to start off with, but because a group is a minority, it automatically makes them targets. And I was like, I just can't see that. I think people start to define other groups in a certain way to give themselves the gumption or to give themselves like the justification to kind of go after them, to invade them. Because what do you say about the different countries like Portugal and Spain and Britain and Japan, Germany, Poland, all these countries kind of trying to take resource, not kind of, but trying to exploit the resources of Africa. What is that about? What is that about? Yes, that's about power and economics, but like, you have to have a certain view of people before that becomes a viable option in the first place.
Yeah. With slavery and chattel slavery, of course, these very wealthy landowners wanted cheap labor. No doubt, right? Now, before that chattel slavery, there was indentured servitude, though, right? There was that. But they felt that black people were not on the same level as being human beings as white people.
So basically the decision, I guess the economic decision that was made, and I guess how our economic infrastructure was set up, was essentially based on how certain people are viewed. So what comes first?
Yes.
It's not a what comes first, the chicken or the egg situation. What comes first is always people's attitudes towards one another's, and systems are built according to that.
Like, who are we going to target?
Who we're going to target. And when you're talking about institutionalized racism or institutional racism, everybody always like to say, like, an institution is like a building. It has to be represented in the form of a law. When actually, if you look at the definition of institution or institutional, it actually says practice or tradition. So the institutionalization of religion or racism or whatever happens up here first. So before any kind of economic system is built or established, there's a mindset that it kind of it feeds off of. You know what I'm saying? You can't have economic inequality between groups without having a gap in how these different groups are valued from the start. That's just my position.
I mean, there were poor people in other places besides Africa.
And I think to focus on the United States alone, as if the United States, like, you know, is the only land that had an indigenous population or a native population or a black population. I think it's like it narrows the conversation down to just America, as if the islands in the South Atlantic weren't affected. Islands, or not, well, Central Atlantic really, but islands in that area were not affected by chattel slavery, or like South America as a continent or Central America wasn't affected, or the Aborigines in Australia, right. And of course, you know, Africa too, and actually Europe had a large black presence for a long period of time in history. It was just pushed out. So there's definitely more than just economic reasons as to why these kind of places were targeted.
And like I'm just saying, like, you know, black people were brought over here from Africa, right? Why Africa? I mean, there were people everywhere. Why Africa? Like, that's
why
what
not?
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Again, where
like, you have to have a certain attitude, a certain mindset.
Where did these European explorers
point to black people to bring those people over?
And where these European explorers come from? They came from a place that practiced feudalism. So they already had. There was an entire group of people they could have used.
Yeah, they could have. But there were some people who they viewed to be less than, not full human beings. And that kind of mindset is still pervasive in our society in 2018. So yeah, like I said, I mean, you know, like I said, Will was on the money, you know, tying economics into it, but, you know, economics isn't, I mean, that's not the root of it. That we can't just talk about economics and act like everything is going to be okay. We have to address minds and attitudes and how, I guess, economics is played into racism. Yeah, not how racism plays into economics, I guess.
No, true that, because like I don't think the mind goes there simply because naturally, if you're just growing up and you're just poor or you're economically deprived, naturally your mind is not going to go to, damn, those damn Mexican immigrants. That has to be taught. Your mind is not naturally going to like go to that. Or let's just say you grow up in a poor country and you are kind of you know, economically on the back end of things. Like, does that automatically kind of make people develop thoughts about other groups that don't look like them? I just don't think the mind automatically makes that jump. You see what I'm saying?
No, it's got to come from somewhere.
It's got to come from somewhere.
It doesn't come from economics. I don't know. Anyway, all right. I think that's what we got for you tonight. Appreciate everybody that made it out tonight and watched the program.
Yeah.
I think we got through everything we wanted to talk about. There was another story that I was reading a little bit about but didn't read a lot about it. But yeah, there's things going on in Gaza right now.
Oh yeah,
apparently
the Israel striking back.
Yeah. Well, no, Gaza. Well, yeah, Israel striking back
because Gaza supposedly sent some mortar shells across the border.
There was some rocket fire coming from Gaza, and Hamas. They claim responsibility as well as the Islamic Jihad. I think in a dual kind of statement or something like that. They claim dual responsibility. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to read a lot about it. I did, see some reports about it. Saw a CNN report about it, and I think there were some injuries on the Israeli side. I think a few soldiers were injured. I think there were 2 that had minor injuries, and there was another one they said that had like moderate injuries. So anyway, like you said, like Israeli sent some fire back over there, and I don't know, damaged some stuff, targeted some sites or whatever like that. Like I said, I don't have a lot of information about it, but it's just, man, it's just an ongoing feud, it's an ongoing struggle, and innocent people are gonna get caught up in these crossfires, man. And I think one mortar was came from Hamas or whatever, and it landed near near a school or by a school, but there were no children there because it was before school hours, I think. So it's just been, of course it would have been tragic if there were actually some cool school children there and innocent people are killed. So I mean, I think we say all the time, man, there's bad actions on both sides, man, and there's innocent people on both sides that are getting caught up into this struggle, man.
Yeah, but I don't think it's like, I think people will take that as like some sort of excuse to say it's all a wash.
No, it's not a wash. No, I wouldn't say it's a wash, especially when, going back just a few weeks, you're seeing, many Palestinians being killed that are protesting, and on one day you see, I think it was 58 Palestinians that were killed. Yeah. So no, it's definitely not a wash. And I do understand, like, for people that say, some of these mugs are being directed by Hamas and they're actually trying to,
cause serious damage.
I mean, like, there's an argument, but like some of the, footage we saw, people are running away from the scene and they're being sniped and killed. It's like, not all of these people are trying to actually hurt and kill these Israelis, like the IDF soldiers, but the response is not proportional whatsoever. So to be real, you have to admit that. So whatever. But anyway, that might be something that we talk about on the next show. But anyway, you see anything in the comments that we got to address?
Not really. They doing a normal thing, man. Talking to each other like they always do. Nothing really significant stuck out to me. I mean, I've been kind of like periodically following through. Doggone Marsha and somebody having a conversation about vitamin D and shit.
Oh, really? Yeah. Some health conversation, huh? Conversations, all right. Oh, I see D2, D3, all that.
It's Moose and Marsha always having a little side
conversation. I do. It's
always them two.
Yeah, I do be seeing that,
man.
These the girls that be passing notes back in class, back and forth in class.
Oh, and remember that little thing? That little thing too. That's them. That little whatever that little thing was.
Yo, I wonder if that's still in school. No, you know what? No, it's not. Hell no. They got phones.
They got phones now.
Tablets. Hell no. They ain't passing notes back and forth. They sending instant messages to each other.
I did girls, man. They put some creativity into their notes, man. Goodness gracious, man. Dudes didn't care.
I never could create those different.
Nah,
I never could. Man.
Girls
they could fold them things up, man.
Girls were extra, man, with their notes, man. I remember when girls used to pass notes to me, man. I'm like, man, I ain't doing all this. I'm like bubble letters. I'm like, I ain't doing all this and decorating the edges and color. I'm like, Man, I ain't doing all this. I'll write something past you back, but I ain't doing all this.
I remember getting those folded up ones that like it's like sealed,
it's
and then
sealed.
you got to open it.
Yeah.
But then if you got to return it to them, it's like, man, I don't know how to put this thing back together, man. I'm over there like,
gotta
man,
respect that, man. Girls
look at the creases.
Extra, man. They put so much craft work into their notes, man.
Here, all right. I couldn't get it, man. Yeah, man. I wonder, I do wonder what it. Nah, I don't wonder.
Oh, true that, Drew. Hearts and flowers. I was just saying, I'm like, yo, y'all do that. I respect it, but I ain't gonna do it back.
That's whack though, man. Instant messages, man.
But see, that's why they got emojis, because they trying to like kind of tap into what we used to do as kids. So they got emojis now. You know what I'm saying? That's why they added emojis to the instant message.
No, but what I'm saying is like you remember being in school and getting the letter, right? And of course you in the hall, you can't read it right there, right? So you gotta wait till you get into class and you're like, damn man, this is killing me. Like what's going on, man? I gotta read this damn thing, man. Yeah. It kind of builds suspense and everything like that, man. They don't got that no more.
Oh, true that.
They don't got that, man.
They don't. They true that. Like, think about this. Like, dick pics weren't an issue back in the day. Like, unsolicited dick pics weren't an issue.
Not at all.
See, Muzz got to get bold when he got instant messaging capabilities. Dick pics were not an issue. What you gonna do? Like, take a Polaroid and fold it up and send it to him? That's just so...
Nah, man. Like, that was not a thing, man.
Nah,
that was not a thing, man. Nah. Yeah, this is some new school stuff right here, man. Man, my daughter would be in high school and hold up, what's that, like 9 years or so? I wonder how much is gonna change, by then. I don't know, man. Anyway, all right, so we're gonna get out of here. We appreciate everybody staying with us, and we appreciate everybody that called in. Court, Will, and Tony. Appreciate you, man. I'm not even gonna guess when I see 443 again. I'm not even gonna guess. I'm just gonna be like, "What's up, man? Who's this?" Because the last 2 times I got it wrong.
Yeah, that's really all we would look at is the area code.
I just look at the area code, man. So I don't look at them other numbers. But anyway.
Oh yeah, we don't want to give a shout out to the people that contributed to the super chat before we go.
No doubt.
And that's Gearandin and Jeremiah. We appreciate your contributions, and they are much needed because we are broke
hashtag
casters.
Broke broadcasters. No messages with the contributions though. You know, remember
it came through.
What there were messages with it?
Yeah, there were messages with them. I just caught them. Yeah, see. It just
no, I'm talking about, you know how they write something, ask a question or something like that.
True, I didn't see that.
I didn't write any questions.
No questions. I know what you mean.
But okay. So we're about to get out of here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's easy to do. Just hit that subscribe. It's right there on the screen. And please click the bell as well on the page so that you receive all our new content.
And let you know when we go live, even though you should already know.
True that, because it's 7:00.
It's 7.
It's like 7:10.
I was about to say
it's like 7:10.
Like pending some unforeseen, hang-ups.
Yeah, it's like 7:10. Between 7 and 7:10. There may be some lighting issues. There may be some camera issues. There may be, some sound issues, something like that. But we get there. But we appreciate you, man. We appreciate everybody that watches us and all the people that comment in the section.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly, man.
Were you sleeping when court called? I don't know what that's about. Did you look like you were sleeping?
No. I don't know, but because sometimes I'll be looking up stuff if we talking. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'll be looking up stuff, so it maybe look like I'm looking down like I'm sleeping. I'm actually looking up information. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I may say something and I think I'm wrong, so I'll be looking it up to make sure I'm right. Or if somebody says something during a call, I want to look it up too. So sometimes I'll have my head down looking at my tablet or my phone.
You know what didn't happen on this show? We had no problems with the stream.
0. Status was good. Yeah, green the whole time.
It was green the whole time. There was enough data, we had enough bandwidth, I guess. I don't know why it happens, but glad that there were no problems tonight. So anyway, think that's about it.
Yes. See y'all on Thursday.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Anybody? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that anybody that likes sports. The NBA Finals are set. Golden State versus Cleveland. And
the Cleveland LeBronaliers.
The Cleveland LeBronaliers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any I guess prediction on how it's gonna go?
Golden State in 6.
Golden State in 6, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
LeBron will definitely have one game where he just goes off when they can't do anything. And then Golden State will have one game where they don't show up, like we saw in Houston a couple times.
Yes,
but for the most part, I think Golden State is the type of team that will step it up when they have to, and I do think that a team like Golden State, who has been spoiled with so many wins, so much success, making it into the finals now how many times in a row?
4 times.
4 times in a row. Yeah. A lot of times I can see that, like, they understand that they can make it. They understand that they can make it. So I think in their minds they kind of like idle down just a little bit. They won't be idled down. They're probably gonna be more focused.
Yeah.
The championship.
See, okay, so I agree with that, because I think we saw that all season long. They had mental lapses. They weren't playing defenses the way they should. They weren't playing offense the way they should. Offense was stagnant. They weren't moving. They weren't moving the ball, and we saw that in the Houston series as well. Like this series should have been over in 5 games, but it lasted 7. But anyway, my prediction for the finals. Golden State in 4 games, though. Sweep.
Dang, bringing the brooms up. No, actually,
the way I say it's a sweep is because like I said, that mental laxation I think is going to be gone. 2, Cleveland is a horrible defensive team and always have been. 3, they don't got Kyrie Irving. They won 1 game with Kyrie Irving last year. You telling me a team that doesn't have Kyrie Irving can even get 1?
See, that 4-2, that was my best case scenario, though.
Yeah. Now, okay. So if we see the same Golden State team that we saw all along, and especially in the Houston series, then yeah, Cleveland can pull out too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was my best case scenario. Like initially, that's why I was looking at the teams. I say sweep, but like my best case scenario is 4-2.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like so if Cleveland plays to their utmost capability,
that's the highest potential possible, and in Golden State kind of plays down,
right?
Then that's the best case scenario.
Okay,
kind of sad to say that, but yeah, whatever.
I get you. Yeah, okay, I feel that. All right, everybody, enjoy the night, and we'll be back in just a couple days on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, peace out.